Victor Kane's hand closed around Elena Ward's wrist with bruising force as she stumbled backward on the shadowed terrace of the Meridian corporate retreat. "You think you matter here?" he hissed, his breath hot against her ear. "You're nothing but your father's embarrassment, a birthmark he tried to hide." When she yanked free, her ankle twisted on the marble steps, sending her falling toward the stone floor, and Victor simply stepped back, watching her fall with cold indifference. But before impact, strong arms caught her midair. Caleb Reed, the security contractor no one had noticed, lifted her with practiced ease, his gray eyes meeting hers with something she hadn't seen in years: respect. That single moment, her former fiancé's cruelty met by a stranger's quiet protection, ignited a chain of events that would expose corporate conspiracy, shatter carefully constructed lies, and prove that sometimes the most dangerous people are the ones everyone underestimates. If you want to see how a single father and an overlooked genius brought down an empire built on deception, stay until the end. And drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel. Now let's begin. The Meridian corporate retreat sat perched on the cliffs of Northern California like a glass fortress designed to intimidate. 72 hours of strategic planning sessions, networking dinners, and carefully orchestrated power plays, all wrapped in the illusion of luxury. For most attendees, it was theater. For Caleb Reed, it was a job. He stood in the security monitoring room, his fingers moving across 3 keyboards simultaneously, eyes scanning cascading lines of code on wall-mounted displays. At 32, Caleb had the kind of presence that made people look twice. Lean, controlled movements, dark hair kept military short, and gray eyes that seemed to catalog everything without judgment. But what most people noticed first was what he didn't do. He didn't smile unnecessarily, didn't engage in small talk, and never, ever wasted time on office politics. "Mr. Reed?" A nervous tech assistant hovered near the doorway. "The CFO's asking if you've found anything yet. It's been 4 hours." Caleb didn't look up. "Tell the CFO that rushing a security audit is how breaches become disasters. I'll have preliminary findings in 3 hours. The assistant fled. Caleb returned his focus to the screen, but his mind was elsewhere, 700 miles south, where his daughter Mira was spending the weekend with his sister. 4 years old, curly-haired, with a laugh that could light up the darkest room. She was the reason he took contracts like this. High-paying, short-term, minimal travel. Being a single father had reorganized every priority in his life. His entire world revolved around protection, hers first, everyone else's second. The breach he'd been hired to investigate was subtle. Someone with inside knowledge had accessed restricted employee records 3 weeks ago, copied medical files, and vanished without triggering standard alarms. The company's internal IT team had found nothing. That's when they'd called Caleb. He'd already identified the entry point, a compromised VPN token belonging to someone in senior leadership. But something didn't add up. The access pattern was too precise, too targeted. Whoever did this knew exactly what they were looking for. His phone buzzed. A text from his sister. "Mira wanted me to tell you the pancakes I made weren't as good as yours. She ate 4 anyway. Love you." A rare smile touched his lips as he typed back. "Tell her I'll make a double batch when I get home. 2 more days." "Excuse me." The voice was quiet, almost hesitant. Caleb turned to find a woman standing in the doorway, late 20s, auburn hair pulled into a practical ponytail, wearing a simple gray cardigan over dark jeans. But what struck him immediately was the birthmark that covered the left side of her face, a deep port wine stain that stretched from her temple to her jaw. She flinched slightly when he looked at her, as if expecting the reaction most people probably had. Caleb's expression didn't change. "Can I help you?" "I'm Elena Ward." She stepped inside, carrying a laptop bag. "I work in data architecture. I heard someone was investigating the security breach, and I thought I might have information that could help." Ward. Caleb's mental database clicked into place. Richard Ward was the CEO, the man who'd hired him personally. This was his daughter. "What kind of information?" He gestured to the empty chair beside his workstation. Elena sat, opening her laptop with practiced efficiency. 3 weeks ago, I noticed unusual query patterns in our personnel database. Someone was pulling medical records, but the access logs were being scrubbed in real time. I tried to trace it, but she pulled up a file. "Whoever did this knew our security architecture intimately." Caleb leaned in, studying the data. She was right. The sophistication level was high. Too high for a random attack. "Why didn't you report this to IT?" he asked. A bitter smile crossed her face. "I did. They told me I was imagining things, that I should focus on my assigned projects and leave security to the professionals." "But you didn't." "No." She met his eyes directly. "I kept tracking it, and I think I know whose credentials were compromised." She pulled up another file, access logs showing irregular login times and locations for someone named Victor Kane, Executive Vice President of Strategic Development. "Your former fiancé," Caleb said quietly. Elena's fingers stilled on the keyboard. "How did you—" "I read the company directory. You're listed as his emergency contact, past tense on the engagement status." He scrolled through the data. These access patterns coincide with late-night sessions when Kane was supposedly working from home, but the IP addresses, he highlighted several entries. "These aren't residential. They're from the retreat facility. He's been here using his credentials remotely, which means he's still accessing the system." Elena's voice dropped. "But why steal medical records?" Caleb was silent for a moment, pieces clicking together in his mind. "Not just any medical records. Whose files were accessed?" Elena pulled up a list. Her hands trembled slightly as she scrolled through names. Then she stopped, color draining from her face. "Mine," she whispered. "Every single file. My dermatology consultations, genetic testing results, even my therapy sessions after—" She closed the laptop abruptly, standing up. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have come here." "Wait." Caleb stood too, his voice calm but firm. "If someone's weaponizing your private medical information, that's not just a security breach. That's targeted harassment, potentially criminal." "You don't understand." Elena's laugh was hollow. "Victor isn't just my ex-fiancé. He's my father's chosen successor. The board loves him. My father trusts him completely. If I accuse him without proof—" "I have proof," Caleb interrupted. "Or I will, once I finish tracing these access patterns. But I need to know something first." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "What does he gain by exposing your medical history?" Elena was quiet for so long he thought she wouldn't answer. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely audible. "Control," she said. "Victor's been positioning himself to take over my father's company for years. But there's one obstacle he can't overcome. Me. I'm the one who designed the data architecture that tripled our revenue. I'm the one who built the predictive models that saved us from 3 market crashes. I'm the reason this company survived the last decade." Her hands clenched into fists. "But nobody knows that. My father keeps me hidden. His embarrassment, his imperfect daughter. Victor knows that if my work ever became public, if people realized I was the real architect behind our success, he'd lose his claim to succession," Caleb finished. "Exactly. So he's going to destroy me first, make me look unstable, damaged. He'll leak my therapy records, twist my medical history into proof that I'm mentally unfit, and everyone will believe him because—" She touched her face unconsciously. "Because they already think there's something wrong with me." Caleb was silent for a long moment, studying her. Not the birthmark, but the sharp intelligence in her eyes, the precise way she analyzed problems, the controlled fury in her voice. "Your father really doesn't know what you've built?" he asked. "He knows I work in data. He thinks I'm a mid-level analyst." Elena's smile was sad. "I used to try to show him, but every time I presented something, Victor would take credit, or my father would dismiss it as team effort. Eventually, I stopped trying. It was easier to work in the shadows." And Victor knew the truth. Victor knew everything. We were together for 3 years. I showed him all my work, trusted him with every project. Her voice broke slightly. "I thought he loved me for my mind. Turns out he just wanted to steal it." A phone buzzed. Elena pulled hers out, glanced at the screen, and her entire body tensed. "What is it?" "Victor. He's asking me to meet him on the West Terrace in 10 minutes. Says we need to talk privately." She looked up at Caleb. "He's never asked to talk privately. Not since I broke off the engagement 6 months ago." Every instinct Caleb had honed through years of military intelligence and security work was screaming warning. "Don't go," he said flatly. "I have to. If I refuse, he'll know I suspect something. And if he moves his timeline up, then I'm going with you." Elena shook her head. "You can't. If he sees you, he'll know I talked to someone. This whole investigation will collapse. Caleb pulled out his phone, opening a security app. The West Terrace has 3 surveillance cameras. I can monitor from here. If anything happens, I'm 30 seconds away. He met her eyes. And Elena? Don't let him isolate you. Stay inside of the cameras. She nodded slowly. Okay. Thank you. As she left, Caleb pulled up the camera feeds, watching her small figure cross the lobby toward the terrace doors. Something cold settled in his gut, the same feeling he used to get in the field when a mission was about to go sideways. He checked his watch. 8 minutes until the meeting. He spent them pulling every piece of data he could find on Victor Kane. 38 years old, Harvard MBA, 6 years at the company. Engaged twice before Elena, both broken engagements, both women who'd left the company shortly after. No formal complaints filed, but the pattern was there if you knew how to look. The West Terrace camera flickered to life as Elena stepped outside. The space was empty, high-end patio furniture arranged around a fire pit, the ocean visible beyond the railing. Sunset painted everything in shades of amber and shadow. Victor appeared 2 minutes later. Caleb turned up the audio feed, though at this distance the conversation would be hard to catch. But he could read body language well enough. Victor approached Elena with the easy confidence of someone who'd never been told no. Tall, well-dressed, with the kind of practiced charisma that came from years of boardroom presentations. He smiled, gesturing for Elena to join him near the railing. She stayed where she was, near the center of the terrace, in camera view. Good. Victor's smile faded. Even without clear audio, Caleb could see the conversation shift. Victor stepped closer. Elena stepped back. Then Victor's hand shot out, grabbing her wrist. Caleb was moving before his conscious mind caught up, abandoning the monitors and sprinting toward the terrace. He burst through the doors just as Elena yanked her arm free and stumbled backward. Her ankle twisted on the marble steps leading down to a lower level. She fell, and Victor simply watched, stepped back, let her fall toward the stone floor with cold, calculated indifference. Caleb covered the distance in 4 long strides and caught her midair, one arm behind her shoulders, the other under her knees. The impact sent pain lancing through his old shoulder injury, but he absorbed it without expression. Elena gasped, her hands clutching his shirt, eyes wide with shock. "I've got you," Caleb said quietly. Victor's expression morphed from surprise to carefully controlled anger. "Who the hell are you?" "Security consultant, Caleb Reed." He set Elena down carefully, keeping one hand at her elbow as she tested her weight on the injured ankle. She winced. "This is a private conversation," Victor said coldly. "You need to leave." "Private conversations don't usually involve assault." Caleb's voice was level, professional, deadly calm. "Miss Ward, do you need medical attention?" Elena was staring between them, her breathing uneven. My ankle. Can you walk?" She tried to take a step and gasped, nearly falling again. Caleb caught her instantly. "That's a no." He looked at Victor. "You should call security. Report the incident." Victor's jaw tightened. "There's no incident. Elena tripped. I was trying to help her." "Really?" Caleb's gaze didn't waver. "Because from my position, it looked like you grabbed her. She pulled away, and you watched her fall without attempting to catch her." "Your position?" Victor's smile was sharp. "You mean spying on a private meeting? I'll be filing a complaint about this. You can expect termination papers by morning." "File whatever you want." Caleb turned his attention back to Elena. "Can I carry you inside? That ankle needs ice and elevation." Elena nodded mutely. Without another word, Caleb lifted her again, this time more carefully, adjusting his grip to avoid pressure on the injured ankle. She was lighter than he expected, her body rigid with shock and pain. "This isn't over," Victor called after them. Caleb didn't respond. He carried Elena through the lobby, ignoring the stares from other retreat attendees, and headed straight for the medical suite on the 2nd floor. The facility nurse was gone for the evening, but the room was unlocked. Caleb set Elena down on the examination table and immediately began gathering supplies: ice pack, compression bandage, ibuprofen. "I'm sorry," Elena whispered. "You're going to lose your contract because of me." "Let me worry about that." He knelt beside this table, gently removing her shoe. Her ankle was already swelling. "What did he say to you before he grabbed you?" Elena was quiet for a moment. He told me he knew I'd been digging into the security breach, that I should stop before I embarrassed myself. Then she swallowed hard. He said he still had copies of everything. All my medical records, my therapy sessions. He said if I caused problems, he'd make sure everyone knew exactly what kind of person I really was. Caleb's hand stilled on the bandage. And when you tried to walk away? He grabbed me, told me I didn't get to leave until he was finished talking. Her voice shook. I've never seen him like that. So cold, like I was nothing. You're not nothing. Caleb wrapped the compression bandage with practiced efficiency, the kind that came from field training, from treating injuries in far worse conditions than this. You're the person who built this company's entire data infrastructure. You're the reason they're successful, and you're the only one who saw through Kane's theft. But nobody else knows that. They will. He secured the bandage and placed the ice pack gently over the swelling. Because I'm not leaving until this is finished. Elena looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time. Why? You don't know me. This isn't your fight. Caleb thought about Mira, about the world he was trying to build for her, one where strength protected the vulnerable, where bullies didn't win, where a man's worth wasn't measured by his willingness to look away when someone needed help. My daughter's 4 years old, he said quietly. Every night before bed, she asks me to tell her a story about the good guys winning. I'd like to keep those stories honest. Something shifted in Elena's expression, a crack in the armor she'd built around herself. What's her name? Mira. That's beautiful. Elena managed a small smile. She's lucky to have you. I'm the lucky one. Caleb stood, pulling out his phone. I'm going to call my contact at the FBI. What Kane's doing, the theft, the coercion, the threats, it crosses into criminal territory. But I need to ask, are you willing to testify? Because once we start this, there's no taking it back. Elena was silent for a long moment, her fingers tracing the edge of the ice pack. Then she straightened her shoulders, and Caleb saw steel replace the fear in her eyes. He let me fall, she said softly, watched me fall like it meant nothing, like I meant nothing. She looked up at Caleb. I'm done being invisible. I'm done hiding. So yes, I'll testify. I'll do whatever it takes. Caleb nodded once. Then we start tonight. I need you to write down everything, every conversation with Kane, every project he took credit for, every threat he's made. Dates, times, witnesses if there were any. While you do that, I'm going to pull every piece of digital evidence I can find. Where? The security monitoring room. It's secure, and I've already locked it down. Nobody gets in without my authorization. He helped her stand, offering his arm for support. Can you make it there? Elena tested her weight, wincing but nodding. I can manage. They made their way through the quiet hallways, Elena leaning on Caleb's arm, her limp pronounced but determined. When they reached the monitoring room, Caleb unlocked it with his security badge and held the door. The space was exactly as he'd left it, screens still displaying cascading data, his half-empty coffee cup on the desk, Elena's laptop where she'd left it earlier. Sit. He gestured to the ergonomic chair. Elevate that ankle. There's a footrest under the desk. While Elena settled in, Caleb returned to his workstation and pulled up the surveillance footage from the terrace. He watched the scene again. Victor's grab, Elena's struggle, the fall, his own intervention. Then he burned 3 copies to encrypted drives and uploaded a 4th to a secure cloud server. He's going to deny everything, Elena said quietly. She had her laptop open, fingers flying across the keyboard. His word against mine, and everyone will believe him. Not everyone. Caleb pulled up another screen, this one showing access logs from the past 6 months. Kane made a mistake. He got cocky. Look at this. Elena wheeled her chair closer, studying the data. Her eyes widened. He's been accessing the system from the retreat facility for weeks, she breathed, even before the official retreat started. That means he had advanced access. Someone gave him early entry, probably under the guise of preparation. Caleb highlighted another set of logs. But here's what's interesting. He wasn't alone. Look at these secondary access points. Someone else was logging in simultaneously from a different terminal. An accomplice? Or a witness? Someone who might not know they're leaving a digital trail. Caleb ran a trace on the second set of credentials. A name popped up. Jennifer Alcott, executive assistant to the CFO. I know Jennifer, Elena said immediately. She's worked here for 15 years. She's loyal, competent, and she was working late the same nights Kane was accessing restricted files. Caleb pulled up Jennifer's employee record. Spotless performance reviews, no red flags. Either she's helping him willingly, or he's using her credentials without her knowledge. We need to talk to her. Not yet. If she's part of this, confronting her tips our hand. If she's innocent, we put her at risk. Caleb glanced at the time. Nearly midnight. First we finish documentation, then we sleep. Tomorrow, I'm going to request a meeting with your father. Elena's expression went carefully blank. My father won't listen to me. He never has. He'll listen to evidence, and he'll listen when I tell him his chosen successor just committed corporate espionage and assault in the same evening. Caleb met her eyes. But I need you to be ready for what comes next, because when we expose Kane, there won't be any shadows left to hide in. Everyone will know what you've built, what you're capable of. They'll also know about... Elena touched her face unconsciously. They'll know you're brilliant, Caleb interrupted firmly. That you saved this company. That you're stronger than any of them gave you credit for. The rest is just noise. Elena stared at him for a long moment. You really believe that? I know it. He returned to his keyboard. Now write every detail. We've got work to do. They worked through the night in concentrated silence, broken only by the soft click of keyboards and occasional questions. Caleb built a comprehensive timeline of Kane's activities, access logs, financial transfers, correspondence trails. Elena documented 3 years of stolen work, manipulated credit, and subtle professional sabotage. Around 3 a.m., Elena's head began to droop. Caleb looked up from his screen to find her fighting sleep, her injured ankle propped on the footrest, dark circles under her eyes. You need rest, he said. So do you. I'm used to functioning on no sleep, military habit. He saved his work and stood, stretching. But you're injured. Your body needs recovery time. I can't go back to my room. Victor has the suite next to mine. If he sees me leaving here, you're not leaving. Caleb pulled a blanket from the emergency supply closet and handed it to her. The monitoring room has a couch. Not comfortable, but secure. I'll keep working. Wake you in 4 hours. Elena took the blanket hesitantly. You're just going to stand guard all night? That's literally my job. He managed a slight smile. Though usually I'm guarding data, not people. This is actually more interesting. She laughed, a real laugh, surprising them both. Thank you, Caleb, for all of this. She gestured helplessly, for seeing me. Something tightened in Caleb's chest. He thought about Mira again, about the kind of men he wanted in her life when she grew up. Men who didn't look away. Men who stood up when it mattered. Get some sleep, Elena, he said quietly. Tomorrow, we fight back. She settled on the couch, pulling the blanket around herself. Within minutes, her breathing evened into sleep. Caleb returned to his screens, but his focus had shifted. This wasn't just about completing a security contract anymore. This was about making sure that when his daughter asked for stories about good guys winning, he'd have a real one to tell her. The sun was beginning to rise over the Pacific when he finally cracked Kane's innermost files. And what he found there made everything clear and infinitely more dangerous than he'd imagined. The files Caleb discovered in those early morning hours painted a picture far more calculated than simple corporate theft. Victor Kane hadn't just stolen Elena's work, he'd been systematically dismantling her credibility for months, building a narrative that would make her look unstable, unreliable, unfit for any position of authority. Medical records were only the beginning. Kane had compiled manipulated email chains showing Elena contradicting herself, fabricated performance reviews suggesting erratic behavior, even doctored meeting notes where her suggestions had allegedly caused project failures. It was character assassination rendered in spreadsheets and PDFs, waiting to be deployed. Caleb sat back in his chair, rubbing his eyes. The monitoring room had grown warm with the sunrise, light streaming through the narrow windows. On the couch, Elena still slept, her face relaxed in a way it never seemed to be when she was awake. The birthmark that others found so startling looked to Caleb like nothing more than a distinctive feature on an otherwise unremarkable face. He'd seen real ugliness in his years, cruelty, cowardice, calculated harm. A port wine stain didn't even register. His phone buzzed softly. A text from his sister. Mira's asking when you're coming home. I told her 2 more days, but she wants to count the hours. Math prodigy in training? He smiled, typing back, 48 hours. Tell her we'll count them together when I call tonight. How is she? Perfect. Missing her dad? Be safe. Caleb pocketed the phone and returned his attention to the files. He needed to build an airtight case before approaching Richard Ward. The CEO might trust Victor implicitly now, but hard evidence had a way of cutting through even the strongest loyalties. What time is it? He turned to find Elena awake, pushing herself upright with a wince. Just past 7. How's the ankle? Hurts less than my pride. She tested her weight gingerly. Did you sleep at all? Couple hours. It was a lie, but she didn't need to know that. I found something. You should see this. Elena limped over to his workstation, and Caleb pulled up the fabricated files. He watched her face as she read, saw the color drain from her cheeks, watched her hands begin to tremble. He's been planning this for months, she whispered. Every conversation we had, every email I sent, he was twisting it, saving it, preparing to use it against me. Not just preparing, look at the metadata. Caleb highlighted a series of timestamps. He started building this file 3 weeks after you broke off the engagement. This isn't reactive, it's revenge. Elena sank into this chair beside him, her breathing uneven. The emails, half of these I never wrote. The performance reviews are completely fabricated, but if he presents them to the board, they'd believe him over you, I know. Caleb minimized the files and pulled up a different screen. That's why we're not giving him the chance. I've scheduled a meeting with your father at 9 a.m., emergency security briefing. He won't take a meeting with me present. He will when I tell him there's been a serious breach involving executive-level credentials and potential data theft. Caleb met her eyes. I won't mention you initially, but once we're in the room, once I present the evidence, you're going to have to speak up, claim your work, all of it. Elena's hand went to her face, tracing the birthmark unconsciously. He spent my whole life keeping me out of sight, away from board meetings, investor presentations, press conferences. He told me it was to protect me from people's reactions, from uncomfortable questions, but really, he was protecting his image, the perfect CEO with the perfect family. Caleb's voice was gentle but firm. I'm sorry, Elena. That must have been incredibly painful. You know what the worst part is? She laughed bitterly. I convinced myself he was right, that I was better off invisible, that my ideas could speak for themselves without me attached to them. I built an entire career in the shadows and called it strategy. It was survival. There's a difference. Caleb stood, grabbing a fresh ice pack from the medical supplies. Here, we've got 90 minutes before the meeting. Let's use them to prepare exactly what you're going to say. They worked through breakfast, coffee, and protein bars from the vending machine, refining Elena's presentation. Caleb insisted she focus on specifics, project names, revenue impacts, technical innovations that could only have come from deep architectural knowledge. No apologies, no hedging, just facts delivered with quiet confidence. What if he doesn't believe me? Elena asked, practicing her opening statement for the 3rd time. What if he looks at me and still only sees, then he's a fool? But he's not a fool, Elena. He built a multi-billion-dollar company. He knows talent when he sees it. Caleb checked his watch, even if he's been willfully blind to it in his own daughter. At 8:45, they made their way to the executive conference room on the 3rd floor. Elena had changed into professional attire, dark slacks, a crisp white blouse, her hair pulled back to reveal her face completely. No hiding. Caleb noticed the choice and approved. You look ready, he said. I feel terrified. Good. Fear means you care about the outcome. Use it. Richard Ward was already seated when they arrived, flanked by his chief legal officer and head of HR. The CEO was in his early 60s, silver-haired and imposing, with the kind of presence that came from decades of commanding boardrooms. His eyes narrowed when he saw Elena. What is she doing here? He demanded. Reed, I agreed to a security briefing. not a family therapy session. Caleb set his laptop on the conference table, unmoved by the hostility. Ms. Ward is here because she's central to the investigation. She identified the initial breach and has been instrumental in tracing its scope. Elena works in mid-level data analysis. She has no authority to... With respect, Mr. Ward, your daughter built your entire data infrastructure. Caleb opened his laptop, pulling up the first set of files. And someone's been systematically stealing her work for the past 3 years. That same person has now compiled fabricated evidence to destroy her credibility before she can expose the theft. The room went very quiet. Richard's face darkened. That's a serious accusation. Who are you accusing? Victor Kane, your executive vice president and chosen successor. That's absurd. The chief legal officer, a sharp-faced woman named Patricia Voss, leaned forward. Mr. Kane has been with this company for 6 years. His record is impeccable. His record is built on Elena's work. Caleb turned the laptop to face them, displaying the access logs. 3 weeks ago, Kane used compromised VPN credentials to access restricted employee medical records, specifically Ms. Ward's complete medical history, including private therapy sessions and genetic testing results. He then compiled this information alongside fabricated performance reviews and manipulated correspondence, creating a comprehensive file designed to make her appear professionally unstable. He clicked to the next screen, showing the fabricated documents. These emails were never sent by Ms. Ward. The metadata has been altered. These performance reviews don't exist in HR's official records. This is manufactured evidence, built systematically over the past 6 months. Patricia Voss reached for the laptop, scanning the files with practiced legal scrutiny. This is, if authentic, this constitutes harassment, defamation, and potential criminal fraud. It's authentic. I can provide forensic verification. Caleb pulled up another screen. But the theft goes deeper than personal harassment. Kane has been claiming credit for technical innovations he didn't create, projects that generated hundreds of millions in revenue, all of them designed and implemented by Elena. Richard was staring at his daughter now, his expression unreadable. Elena, is this true? Elena's hands were clenched in her lap, her knuckles white. When she spoke, her voice was steady despite the tremor Caleb could see running through her shoulders. Yes. The predictive analytics platform that saved us during the 2023 market crash. I built that. The customer behavior modeling system that tripled our conversion rates. Mine. The data security architecture that prevented the ransomware attack last year. I designed every layer. She met her father's eyes directly. I've been building this company's technical foundation since I graduated. Victor knew because I showed him everything. We were engaged. I trusted him with my work. Then why didn't you come forward? Richard's voice was sharp. Why let him take credit? Because you never asked. The words came out harder than Elena seemed to intend, but she didn't soften them. Every time I tried to present something, Victor spoke over me. Every innovation I brought to team meetings, he repackaged in the next executive briefing. And you believed him. You always believed him. That's not fair. You kept me out of every board meeting, every investor presentation, every press conference. Elena's voice cracked slightly. You told me it was to protect me from scrutiny, but it was really to protect your image. The successful CEO couldn't have a daughter who looked like me standing beside him. Richard flinched as if she'd struck him. Elena, I never... That's not why... Then why? She stood, her injured ankle forcing her to grip the table for balance. Why did you hide me away? Why did you let everyone think I was nothing more than a mid-level analyst when I was holding this entire company together? The silence that followed was suffocating. Patricia Voss cleared her throat carefully. Mr. Ward, regardless of family dynamics, we have a serious legal situation here. If Mr. Kane has been committing corporate espionage and harassment, where's Kane now? Richard's voice was hollow. In his suite, Caleb answered. I have surveillance indicating he hasn't left since last night's incident on the terrace. What incident? Caleb pulled up the surveillance footage, letting it play without commentary. The image was clear enough. Kane grabbing Elena's wrist, her pulling away, the fall, Kane's deliberate step backward as she tumbled toward the stone floor. Caleb's intervention happened in the next frame, catching her midair. Richard watched the footage 3 times, his face growing paler with each replay. He let you fall, he said quietly. He just watched you fall. He did. Elena's voice was steady now. The initial emotion burned through. And then threatened me. Told me he had my medical records and would expose them if I caused problems. That's when Mr. Reed intervened. The head of HR, a balding man named Stephen Chen, who'd been silent until now, spoke up. We need to suspend Kane immediately. Launch a full investigation, if even half of this is verified. It's verified, Caleb interrupted. I have forensic evidence, access logs, metadata analysis, and witness testimony, plus the surveillance footage. This isn't speculation. Richard stood abruptly, pacing to the window. When he turned back, he looked older somehow, the weight of realization aging him in real time. Elena, He stopped, starting over. I owe you an apology. Several apologies. But they're not adequate for what I've done, what I've failed to do. I don't need apologies. Elena's voice was quiet but firm. I need you to recognize what I've built, what I'm capable of, and I need you to stop hiding me. You're right. You're absolutely right. Richard moved toward her, then seemed to think better of it, maintaining distance. Patricia, I want Kane's credentials suspended immediately. Stephen, draft termination papers. Reed, continue your investigation and provide us with a complete report by end of day. There's more, Caleb said. He pulled up the final set of files he'd discovered. Kane wasn't working alone. He's been coordinating with someone outside the company. Look at these communication logs. The screen showed encrypted messages between Kane and an unnamed contact discussing proprietary data, client lists, and strategic plans. The messages referenced specific dollar amounts, payments for information. He's been selling company secrets, Patricia breathed. This is corporate espionage. We need to involve law enforcement. Already done. Caleb closed the laptop. I contacted the FBI's cybercrimes division at 6 this morning. They're sending agents to take Kane into custody. As if on cue, Caleb's phone buzzed. He glanced at the message and nodded. They're here. Security is escorting them to Kane's suite now. Richard sank back into his chair, looking shell-shocked. How long has this been going on? Based on the communication logs, at least 18 months, possibly longer. Caleb's voice was professional, detached. Kane was methodical. He built trust, established relationships with competitors, and slowly leaked strategic information while positioning himself as your successor. The plan was to take over the company from the inside, then merge it with a rival corporation. He would have come out of the deal with controlling interest and a substantial payout. And Elena? Richard's voice was hoarse. Where did she fit into his plan? She was an obstacle. Too smart, too talented, too likely to eventually be recognized for her work. So he decided to destroy her first. Make her look unstable and incompetent before anyone could see the truth. Caleb glanced at Elena, who stood frozen by the window. He almost succeeded. The conference room door burst open. Victor Kane stood in the doorway, flanked by 2 FBI agents, his wrists already in handcuffs. His expensive suit was rumpled, his usually perfect hair disheveled. But his eyes were locked on Elena with pure hatred. You think you've won? He spat. You think anyone will ever take you seriously? Look at you. You're a freak hiding in your father's shadow. No one will ever see you as anything more than... That's enough. One of the agents pulled him back firmly. Mr. Kane, you have the right to remain silent. I'd suggest using it. But Kane wasn't done. He wrenched against the agent's grip, his face contorted with rage. I gave you 3 years. I pretended to love you, to see past that hideous face, and this is how you repay me? By destroying everything I built? Everything you stole, you mean, Elena said quietly. Her voice didn't shake. I built this company's success. You just took credit for it. No one will believe that. They'll look at you and see what I see, a broken, damaged woman who should be grateful anyone paid attention to her at all. The words hung in the air like poison. Then Richard Ward stood, and Caleb saw something he hadn't expected, genuine fury in the CEO's eyes. Get him out of here, Richard said coldly, and make sure the charges include everything: espionage, harassment, assault, fraud. I want him prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. The agents nodded and pulled Kane from the room. His shouting echoed down the hallway until a door slammed, cutting off the sound. In the sudden silence, Elena swayed slightly. Caleb moved instinctively to her side, offering his arm for support. She took it without hesitation, her grip tight enough that he could feel her trembling. "I need to sit down," she whispered. He guided her back to her chair, aware of Richard watching them with an expression Caleb couldn't quite read. Patricia Voss was already on her phone, presumably with the company's legal team. Stephen Chen excused himself to handle the HR implications. That left the three of them, father, daughter, and the security consultant who'd blown their world apart. Richard moved to sit beside Elena, then seemed to reconsider, choosing a chair one space away instead. "I don't know how to fix this," he said finally. "Any of this. What I've done to you, what I've let happen. You can start by telling the truth." Elena's voice was exhausted. "To the board, to the company, about who really built the systems that saved us, about who's been keeping us competitive." "I will, I promise you, I will." Richard ran a hand through his silver hair. "But Elena, you have to understand, I never meant to hurt you. When you were born and the doctors showed me the birthmark, I was terrified of how cruel the world would be to you, how people would judge you, dismiss you, use your appearance against you. So you decided to do it first?" The bitterness in Elena's voice was sharp. "Hide me away, keep me invisible, make sure no one could judge what they couldn't see?" "I thought I was protecting you." "You were protecting yourself. From having to explain me. From having to defend me. From the discomfort of having a daughter who didn't fit your perfect corporate image." Elena met her father's eyes. "I needed you to be proud of me. Instead, you taught me to be ashamed." Richard's face crumpled. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You're right about all of it, and I don't expect forgiveness, but I want you to know." His voice broke. "I am proud of you. I've always been proud. I was just too cowardly to show it." Caleb stood quietly, giving them space. This wasn't his conversation, but he stayed close enough to intervene if needed, protective instincts still engaged. Elena was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was softer, but no less firm. "I need more than words, Dad. I need action. I need you to acknowledge my work publicly. Put my name on the innovations I created. Give me the position I've earned. Not because you're my father, but because I'm the most qualified person for it." "Chief Technology Officer," Richard said immediately. "It's yours, effective immediately. We'll announce it at the emergency board meeting this afternoon. I want a seat on the board." Richard blinked. That's a significant ask." "It's a reasonable request from someone who's generated hundreds of millions in revenue and prevented catastrophic security breaches." Elena's spine straightened. "I've been invisible long enough. If I'm going to rebuild my reputation after Victor's smear campaign, I need authority. Real authority." Caleb watched Richard process this, saw the moment the CEO realized his daughter wasn't asking for permission anymore. She was stating terms. "You're right," Richard said finally. "I'll recommend you to the board, with my full support. And one more thing." Elena glanced at Caleb. "Mr. Reed's contract was supposed to end today. I want it extended. Full security audit of all systems, complete review of executive access protocols, and implementation of new safeguards to prevent this from happening again." "Done." Richard looked at Caleb properly for the first time. "Reed, I owe you more than a contract extension. You protected my daughter when I failed to. When everyone failed to. Name your price." Caleb shook his head. "I don't need a bonus, just fair payment for work completed and the extended contract. And..." He hesitated, then continued. "I'd like to work remotely when possible. I have a 4-year-old daughter at home. Being away this long is hard on both of us." "Understandable. We'll make it work." Richard stood, extending his hand. "Thank you, truly." Caleb shook his hand briefly, then stepped back. "I'll have the full security report ready by 5 p.m. For now, I recommend we lock down all of Kane's access points and run a complete audit of anyone who worked closely with him. If he had help inside the company, we need to find them." Richard nodded. "Patricia will coordinate with you on the investigation. Elena," he turned to his daughter, "would you be willing to work with Reed on this? Your knowledge of the systems would be invaluable." "Yes." Elena stood carefully, testing her ankle. The swelling had gone down, but she still moved gingerly. We'll need access to Kane's files, his communications, everything. You'll have it. Richard moved toward the door, then paused. Elena, I know this doesn't fix anything, but I want you to know, I'm going to spend whatever time I have left making this right. You deserve better from me. You deserve better from all of us. After he left, Elena sank back into her chair, the adrenaline that had carried her through the confrontation clearly draining away. You did well, Caleb said quietly. Standing up for yourself like that, it took courage. I'm shaking so hard I can barely stand. That's normal. You just faced down your father, claimed work you've been hiding for years, and watched your ex-fiancé get arrested. He pulled up a chair beside her. You're allowed to fall apart a little. I can't. Not yet. We still have work to do. Elena opened her laptop with trembling hands. If Victor had accomplices, we need to find them before they destroy evidence or flee. We will. But first you need food and rest. Your ankle needs elevation, and you've been running on coffee and adrenaline for 12 hours. Caleb stood, offering his hand. Come on. We'll work from somewhere more comfortable. Elena took his hand and let him pull her up. Where? There's a private lounge on this floor. Couches, better coffee, and actual food. We can set up there and continue the investigation without being interrupted. They made their way down the hallway, Elena leaning on Caleb more heavily now that the immediate crisis had passed. The lounge was empty when they arrived, a sleek space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the ocean. Caleb settled Elena on the leather couch, propping her ankle up with cushions. Stay here, I'm getting food. He returned 10 minutes later with sandwiches, fruit, and proper coffee. Elena had her laptop balanced on her knees, already deep in data analysis. You're supposed to be resting, he said. I found something. She turned the screen toward him. Look at this. The encrypted messages Kane was sending, they all went through a relay server. I traced the path backward and found the original recipient. Caleb set down the food and leaned in, studying the screen. The trail led to an email address registered to someone named Marcus Chen. Stephen Chen's brother, Elena said quietly. He works in our Hong Kong office, Senior Vice President of Asian Operations. Family connection. That's how Kane recruited him. Caleb pulled out his phone. I need to call the FBI. If Marcus Chen is involved, he might already be moving assets or destroying evidence. While Caleb made the call, Elena ate mechanically, her mind clearly elsewhere. When he hung up, she looked at him with exhausted eyes. How many more? She asked. How many more people were in on this? How deep does it go? I don't know yet, but we'll find out. Caleb sat beside her on the couch. Elena, I need to ask you something. When this is all over, when the investigation wraps up and the dust settles, what do you want? What do I want? For yourself, for your career, for your life. He met her eyes directly. You just claimed authority you've earned. Your father's offering you positions you deserve. The whole company is about to learn what you're capable of. So what comes next? Elena was quiet for a long time, staring out at the ocean. I want to stop hiding, she said finally. I want to walk into boardrooms and presentations and meetings without apologizing for existing. I want people to see my face and think brilliant architect instead of poor thing. She touched her birthmark unconsciously. And I want to build something that matters, not just profitable systems, but technology that actually helps people. Then that's what you'll do. You make it sound simple. It won't be simple. It'll be hard and uncomfortable and sometimes lonely. But you're strong enough for it. You've already proven that. Caleb leaned back against the couch. And for what it's worth, when I look at you, I see someone who built a company's entire infrastructure in secret because she cared more about the work than the credit. That's rare. That's valuable. Elena turned to look at him, something shifting in her expression. Why are you doing this? Really? You could have handed over the evidence and left. Let the company handle the fallout. But instead, you're sitting here helping me trace conspirators and giving me pep talks about my future. Caleb thought about his answer carefully. When my daughter was born, her mother left the hospital and never came back. Just walked away from both of us. And I spent the first year terrified I'd screw up, that I'd fail Mira somehow, that I wasn't enough. He paused, the words coming slower now. But I had people who stood by me. My sister, my former team members, Friends who showed up when it mattered. They taught me that being strong doesn't mean doing everything alone. It means knowing when to stand beside someone who needs support. And you think I need support? I think you've been standing alone in the shadows for too long. And I think you deserve someone who sees your worth and refuses to look away. He met her eyes. So yeah, I'm staying until this is finished, until you're safe and recognized and positioned exactly where you belong. Elena's eyes were bright with unshed tears. No one's ever... Victor pretended, but it was all manipulation. And my father tried in his own broken way, but... She stopped, composing herself. Thank you, Caleb, for seeing me, for believing me, for standing beside me when you didn't have to. You're welcome. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, both lost in thought. Then Elena's laptop chimed with an incoming email. She checked it and tensed. What is it? Patricia Voss. She wants me to present at the emergency board meeting this afternoon. Walk them through the systems I've built. Explain the security improvements we need to implement. Elena's hands were shaking again. In front of 20 board members, including people who've never seen me before, people who only know me as Richard Ward's hidden daughter. Can you do it? I don't know. The thought of standing in front of all those people, having them stare at me, judge me. They won't be judging your face, Elena. They'll be judging your competence. And on that metric, you're untouchable. Caleb stood, offering his hand. Come on, let's prepare your presentation. We've got 4 hours to make sure it's perfect. Those 4 hours passed in intense focus as they built a comprehensive presentation showcasing Elena's innovations, the revenue impact, and the security vulnerabilities Kane had exploited. Caleb pushed her to be specific, to own every achievement without hedging or minimizing. Don't say, I worked on the predictive analytics platform, he corrected for the third time. Say, I designed and implemented the predictive analytics platform that generated $200 million in new revenue. It feels arrogant. It's factual. There's a difference. By the time the board meeting approached, Elena's presentation was airtight, but her hands were still shaking as they walked toward the executive boardroom. I can't do this, she whispered outside the door. Caleb, I can't walk in there and... Yes, you can. He turned her to face him, his hands on her shoulders. Listen to me. You've already done the hard part. You've built incredible things. You've survived years of being dismissed and stolen from. You've faced down your father and watched your abuser get arrested. A boardroom presentation? That's nothing compared to what you've already conquered. But they'll all be looking at me. Let them look. Let them see the woman who saved their company. Let them see strength and brilliance and everything they've been too blind to notice. He squeezed her shoulders gently. You've got this, Elena, and I'll be right there if you need me. She took a deep breath, straightened her spine, and nodded. Then she opened the door and walked into the room where 20 pairs of eyes turned to stare at her, and she didn't flinch at all. The boardroom fell silent as Elena made her way to the front, her slight limp the only visible sign of the previous night's violence. Caleb positioned himself against the back wall, arms crossed, his presence a steady anchor in her peripheral vision. 20 board members sat around the massive mahogany table, their expressions ranging from curious to skeptical to outright hostile. She recognized some faces from company events she'd attended in the background, always relegated to corners and shadows while Victor commanded center stage. Richard sat at the head of the table, his face carefully neutral. Beside him, Patricia Voss offered an encouraging nod. Elena connected her laptop to the presentation system with hands that only trembled slightly. The first slide appeared on the massive screen behind her, a simple title reading, Architectural Foundation, The Real Story. Good afternoon, she began, her voice quieter than she'd intended. She cleared her throat and tried again. My name is Elena Ward. Most of you don't know me, though I've worked for this company for 7 years. I'm the architect behind the data infrastructure that's generated over $600 million in revenue since 2019. A murmur rippled through the room. One board member, an older man with steel gray hair, leaned forward. That's quite a claim, Ms. Ward. Victor Kane has been presenting those innovations as his work for years. I know, Elena said simply, because I showed them to him. We were engaged. I trusted him with everything I built. She clicked to the next slide, showing the predictive analytics platform. This system predicted the 2023 market downturn 6 weeks before it happened. It allowed us to reallocate assets and avoid losses that would have cost the company approximately $200 million. I designed it, coded it, and implemented it. Victor presented it to you as his strategic vision. She moved through the presentation systematically, each slide documenting a specific innovation with technical details that would be impossible to fake. Code snippets, architectural diagrams, implementation timelines, all bearing her digital signature, her coding style, her problem-solving approach. The customer behavior modeling system increased conversion rates by 43% in the first quarter of deployment, she continued, her confidence growing with each slide. The security architecture prevented 3 separate ransomware attacks, including one that would have crippled our operations for weeks. The AI-driven resource allocation algorithm reduced operational costs by 18% while improving service delivery. Another board member, a woman with sharp eyes and expensive jewelry, interrupted. "If you built all this, why didn't you claim credit before now?" Elena paused, her hand going unconsciously to her face before she caught herself and dropped it. "Because I believed my father when he told me I was better off invisible. Because I trusted my fiancé when he said he was helping me by presenting my work to leadership. Because I convinced myself that the work mattered more than recognition." She met the woman's eyes directly. "I was wrong. The work does matter, but so does truth. And the truth is that Victor Kane built his entire career on stolen intellectual property while systematically destroying the person he stole it from." The room erupted in overlapping voices. Richard raised his hand for silence. "Let her finish," he said quietly. Elena clicked to the next section of her presentation, showing the evidence Caleb had compiled. Access logs, stolen files, fabricated performance reviews. The complete dossier Kane had assembled to discredit her. "Last night, Victor threatened me with exposure of my private medical records if I interfered with his plans. When I tried to leave, he physically restrained me. When I pulled away, he watched me fall and made no attempt to help." She gestured toward Caleb. "That man in the back of this room, a security consultant we hired to investigate a data breach, intervened. He caught me before I hit the ground. He then spent the night uncovering the full scope of Victor's theft, manipulation, and corporate espionage." The steel-haired board member looked at Caleb with newfound interest. "Corporate espionage?" "Mr. Kane was selling proprietary information to competitors," Caleb said, his voice carrying easily across the room. "We have 18 months of encrypted communications documenting the transactions. The FBI arrested him this morning. He's currently facing multiple federal charges." The room exploded again, this time with genuine shock. Richard let the chaos continue for a moment before calling for order. "Elena has documentation for everything she's presented," he said. "Patricia's legal team has verified the technical evidence. The forensic analysis confirms that these innovations originated from Elena's work, not Victor's, and I owe this entire board an apology for not recognizing the truth sooner." The sharp-eyed woman studied Elena with renewed attention. "What you've built is extraordinary, but you must understand our skepticism. For years, we've watched Victor Kane present brilliant strategic innovations. Now you're telling us he created nothing." "Not nothing," Elena corrected. "He's an excellent presenter, charismatic, convincing, skilled at reading a room and telling people what they want to hear. Those are valuable talents, but they're not the same as innovation. They're not the same as building systems from the ground up, solving impossible problems, or creating technology that actually works." She pulled up a technical schematic. "This is the core architecture of our security system. It's designed around a 3-tier authentication protocol with dynamic encryption keys that rotate every 72 hours. Victor couldn't explain how this works if his life depended on it, because he didn't build it. I did." Another board member, younger with a tech background based on his questions, leaned forward. "Walk us through the authentication protocol. Specifically, how do you handle the key rotation without disrupting active sessions?" Elena's entire demeanor changed. This was her element: technical problem-solving, elegant solutions, the pure satisfaction of explaining complex systems to someone who genuinely wanted to understand. For the next 20 minutes, she fielded increasingly sophisticated questions, her answers precise and detailed, her passion for the work evident in every word. Caleb watched the room's energy shift. Skepticism gave way to interest. interest to respect. By the time Elena finished answering the last technical question, even the most hostile board members were nodding thoughtfully. I have one final question, the steel-haired man said. What do you want from this company, Ms. Ward? Recognition? Compensation? Revenge against Mr. Kane? Elena closed her laptop, meeting his gaze steadily. I want the position I've earned, Chief Technology Officer, with a seat on this board. I want my name on the innovations I created, and I want the authority to continue building systems that matter, not for profit alone, but for genuine impact. She paused. As for revenge, Mr. Kane destroyed himself. I just stopped hiding the evidence. The man smiled, a genuine expression of approval. Richard, I move that we appoint Elena Ward as Chief Technology Officer, effective immediately, and recommend her for board membership pending the usual vetting process. Seconded, the sharp-eyed woman said immediately. The vote was unanimous. Richard stood, extending his hand to his daughter across the table. Elena took it, her grip firm despite the emotion Caleb could see threatening to overwhelm her composure. Welcome to leadership, Elena, Richard said quietly. You've more than earned it. The meeting adjourned shortly after, board members approaching Elena to introduce themselves properly, to ask follow-up questions, to acknowledge work they'd been crediting to the wrong person for years. Caleb stayed in the background, watching her navigate the attention with growing confidence. When the room finally cleared, leaving only Richard, Patricia, and Elena, Caleb moved to join them. We have another problem, Patricia said without preamble. Marcus Chen caught a flight to Beijing 6 hours ago. By the time the FBI got a warrant for his arrest, he was already airborne, and China doesn't have an extradition treaty with the U.S. So he's gone, Elena said flatly. For now, but we're freezing all his assets, terminating his employment, and pursuing civil charges for the damages. It won't bring him back, but it will make sure he can't profit from what he stole. Patricia turned to Caleb. Your security audit needs to expand. We need to know if there are others, how deep this conspiracy goes. I'll need access to all executive communications, travel records, and financial transactions for the past 2 years, Caleb said. And I'll need Elena's help. She knows the systems better than anyone. You'll have whatever you need, Richard promised. Both of you. Elena, I know you just accepted the CTO position, but your first priority needs to be working with Reed to secure our systems and identify any remaining conspirators. Understood. Elena's exhaustion was visible now, dark circles under her eyes, her injured ankle clearly causing pain. But I need a few hours. I haven't slept properly in 2 days, and I need to process everything that's happened. Of course. Take the rest of the day. We'll reconvene tomorrow morning. Richard hesitated, then added, Elena, would you join me for dinner tonight? Just us. I'd like to talk. Really talk. Not just about the company. Elena studied her father for a long moment. Okay. 7 o'clock? I'll make reservations. After Richard and Patricia left, Caleb found himself alone with Elena in the vast boardroom. She sank into one of the leather chairs, letting her head fall back against the headrest. I did it, she whispered. I actually stood up there and claimed everything I built. You did more than that. You commanded their respect. That tech board member was ready to offer you his job by the end of your presentation. Caleb sat beside her. How do you feel? Terrified, exhausted, relieved, furious. She laughed shakily. Is it normal to feel everything at once? After what you've been through? Absolutely. He checked his watch. It's almost 4. You should rest before dinner with your father. What? I don't know if I can face that conversation. He's going to want to apologize, to explain why he hid me all these years, and I'm not sure I'm ready to hear it. Then tell him that. Set boundaries. You don't owe him immediate forgiveness just because he's finally acknowledging the truth. Caleb's voice was gentle but firm. You get to process this at your own pace. Elena turned to look at him, her expression thoughtful. You're good at this. The supportive presence thing. Is that from raising your daughter alone? Partly. Partly from learning the hard way that pushing people to heal faster than they're ready always backfires. He smiled slightly. Mira taught me patience. She doesn't do anything on anyone's timeline but her own. I'd like to meet her someday, if that's not too forward. Something warm unfurled in Caleb's chest. She'd like you. She has a thing for smart people who build things. Last month, she spent 3 hours building a blanket fort with structural supports and labeled rooms. A prodigy in training. Or just stubborn like her dad? Caleb stood, offering his hand. Come on, let me walk you to your room. You need real rest, not another night on a monitoring room couch. Elena took his hand and let him pull her up, then didn't let go as they walked through the quiet hallways. Her grip was warm, her fingers small in his larger hand. Neither of them commented on it. At her door, she finally released him, fumbling for her keycard. Caleb, thank you for everything. I know you were just doing your job, but it became more than that somewhere along the way. It did, he agreed quietly. Get some rest, Elena. Tomorrow we hunt for the rest of the conspirators. He waited until he heard the lock click behind her before heading to his own room. The space felt sterile and empty after the intensity of the past 48 hours. He collapsed on the bed and pulled out his phone, finding 3 missed calls from his sister and a text. Call me when you can. Mira has something to tell you. He dialed immediately. His sister answered on the first ring. Finally, hold on. Someone wants to talk to you. Then Mira's voice, high and excited. Daddy! Daddy! I counted all the hours like you said, and it's only 24 more until you come home. Caleb felt his chest tighten with the familiar ache of missing her. That's right, baby girl. 1 more day, and then I'm all yours. Auntie Sarah says you're catching bad guys, like in the stories. Something like that. I'm helping someone who needed protection. Is the someone okay now? She's getting there. She's very brave, just like you. Can I meet her? Caleb blinked, surprised by the question. Maybe someday? Would you like that? If she's brave like me, then yes. Brave people should be friends. The simple logic of a 4-year-old. Daddy, I made you a picture. It's us at the park with the swings and ice cream. I can't wait to see it. I'll hang it on the fridge as soon as I get home. They talked for another 10 minutes about nothing important. Her day at preschool, the new song she learned, her elaborate plans for the weekend. When she finally handed the phone back to his sister, Caleb felt both better and worse. You sound exhausted, Sarah said. What's really going on up there? He gave her the abbreviated version, the investigation, the arrest, Elena's presentation. He left out the parts about physical threats and falling, and the way his protective instincts had kicked into overdrive around a woman he'd known for less than 3 days. You like her, Sarah said when he finished. I can hear it in your voice. I respect her. She's brilliant, and she's been dealt a terrible hand, and she's still standing. Caleb, you haven't been interested in anyone since Mira's mom left. If this woman makes you sound like that, protective and invested and actually engaged with another human being, then maybe you should pay attention to it. She just escaped an abusive relationship and reclaimed her career from a criminal. The last thing she needs is me complicating her life. Or maybe she needs exactly what you're already giving her, someone who sees her worth and doesn't run away from it. Sarah's voice softened. You're allowed to want something for yourself, you know. Being a good father doesn't mean being alone forever. I'm not having this conversation right now. Fine, but think about it. Mira wants you to be happy. I want you to be happy. And it sounds like this Elena might want the same thing. After they hung up, Caleb lay in the dark room, staring at the ceiling. Sarah's words circled in his mind, colliding with his own carefully constructed boundaries. He'd built his entire life around being Mira's father, reliable, present, unwavering. Romance felt like a distraction from that purpose, a potential threat to the stability he'd fought so hard to create. But Elena's hand in his had felt natural. Her trust in him felt like something worth protecting. And the thought of walking away when this investigation ended left a hollow feeling in his chest that had nothing to do with professional obligations. He pushed the thoughts away and forced himself to focus on work. There were still conspirators to find, systems to secure, investigations to complete. Personal complications would have to wait. Except Elena knocked on his door at 6:30, showered and changed, looking nervous. I know you said to rest, but I can't. My mind won't stop. She held up her laptop. I've been going through financial records. I think I found something. Caleb let her in, closing the door behind her. She settled at the small desk, opening files with practiced efficiency. Look at these expense reports. Victor approved dozens of vendor payments over the past year, consulting fees, software licenses, training programs. But when I cross-referenced them with our actual usage logs, half these vendors never provided any services. The payments just disappeared into shell companies. Caleb leaned over her shoulder, studying the data. Money laundering. He was siphoning funds while selling company secrets. How much are we talking? At least 3 million, possibly more if these patterns extend further back. Elena pulled up another spreadsheet. And look at who signed off on some of these payments as secondary approval. Caleb's jaw tightened. Jennifer Alcott, the CFO's assistant, the same person whose credentials were used to access the files. Elena turned to look at him. She's either complicit or he's framing her. We need to talk to her tonight before she realizes we're looking at financial records. She's at the retreat. I saw her at lunch. Elena checked the time. But I'm supposed to have dinner with my father in 20 minutes. Go. Have that conversation. I'll track down Jennifer and do a preliminary interview. We'll compare notes afterward. Elena hesitated. Are you sure? I could cancel. Don't. Your father is trying. Let him. Caleb squeezed her shoulder gently. And Elena? Set those boundaries we talked about. You don't have to forgive everything in one dinner. She nodded, closing her laptop. At the door, she paused. Caleb, my sister asked if you're catching bad guys like in stories. She's right. You are. Elena smiled, something soft and genuine. Thank you for being one of the good guys. Then she was gone, leaving Caleb with the warmth of her words and the memory of her hand in his. He found Jennifer Alcott in the resort's library, working on her laptop with a glass of wine beside her. She looked up as he approached, her expression wary. Ms. Alcott? I'm Caleb Reed, security consultant. I need to ask you some questions about your system access credentials. Her face went pale. I already told IT I don't know how my login got compromised. I use strong passwords. I never share them. I'm not accusing you of negligence, but I need to know. Have you noticed anything unusual in the past few months? Requests for approval on payments or vendors you didn't recognize? Pressure from anyone in executive leadership? Jennifer's hands trembled slightly around her wine glass. Victor Kane asked me to fast-track several vendor approvals, said they were time-sensitive, that the CFO had already verbally approved them. I pushed back on a few that seemed questionable, but he... She stopped, fear flickering across her face. He what? He reminded me that my performance review was coming up, that my son's medical expenses were substantial, and I couldn't afford to lose my job. He knew about Jake's treatments, the costs, everything. Her voice dropped to a whisper. He said he was trying to help me by giving me opportunities to prove my value. I thought he was being kind. He was manipulating you. Caleb sat across from her, his voice gentle. Jennifer, I need you to tell me everything. Every payment he asked you to approve, every conversation where he pressured you, every moment you felt uncomfortable. Because right now it looks like you were helping him steal from the company. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. He made it sound so reasonable, so normal. And I was so worried about keeping my job, about paying for Jake's treatments. I believe you, but I need documentation. Emails, chat logs, anything that shows Kane's requests and your responses. Jennifer pulled out her phone with shaking hands, forwarding emails to Caleb's secure address. Dozens of messages from Kane, each one carefully worded to sound legitimate while pushing her to approve questionable payments. This is coercion, Caleb said after reviewing several messages. He used your son's illness as leverage. That's illegal and it makes you a victim, not a co-conspirator. But you need to come forward officially. Talk to Patricia Voss, explain everything, and cooperate fully with the investigation. Will I lose my job? I can't promise you won't, but I can promise that if you help us now, we'll make sure everyone understands you were manipulated, not complicit. He stood. Come on. We're going to Patricia's office right now. The next 3 hours were intense. Jennifer's testimony revealed the scope of Kane's manipulation, not just financial theft, but systematic exploitation of employees' vulnerabilities. Patricia took detailed notes, her expression growing grimmer with each revelation. We'll need to review every approval Jennifer made in the past 18 months, she said finally. Cross-reference them with actual services rendered, trace the money. This is going to take weeks. I'll help, Caleb offered. It fits within the scope of the security audit. By the time they finished, it was nearly 10 p.m. Caleb escorted Jennifer back to her room, making sure she understood she was protected now. that coming forward had been the right choice. His phone buzzed as he headed toward his own room. "Elena, dinner just ended. Are you still awake? I need to talk." He texted back, "Library in 10 minutes?" She was already there when he arrived, curled up in one of the reading chairs near the fireplace. She looked wrung out emotionally, her eyes red from crying. Caleb sat beside her without speaking, offering silent presence. "He cried," Elena said eventually. "My father actually cried. Said he spent my entire life being a coward, that he was so afraid of the world hurting me that he hurt me himself, that he doesn't know how to fix what he's done but he wants to try." How did that feel? Confusing. I wanted to stay angry, to make him suffer the way I've suffered, but then he showed me something. She pulled out her phone, displaying a photo of a young Richard Ward holding an infant. Elena, her birthmark visible even in the hospital picture. He's kept this photo on his desk for 28 years, hidden in a drawer when people visit, but there. He said every time he made a decision to hide me, to keep me out of sight, he'd look at this picture and tell himself he was protecting me, that loving me meant keeping me safe from cruel people. But it just made you invisible. Exactly. And he finally understands that. He said he's going to resign from the board, step back from day-to-day operations, and let me lead the technical division without his shadow over me. Caleb absorbed that. That's a significant gesture. It is, but it doesn't erase 28 years of feeling like a shameful secret. Elena wiped at her eyes. I told him I needed time, that I appreciated him trying, but I couldn't just forgive everything because he finally said the right words. And he accepted that. Didn't push, didn't make it about his feelings, just listened. That's progress. I know, it's just... She laughed wetly. I spent so long being angry at him, and now that anger is complicated by understanding, and I don't know what to do with that. Caleb reached over and took her hand, the gesture natural now. You don't have to know yet. You're allowed to feel everything at once. Anger and understanding, hurt and hope. Healing isn't linear. Elena's fingers tightened around his. How did you get so wise about emotional complexity? 4-year-old daughter, remember? She can go from devastated to delighted in 30 seconds flat. I learned to hold space for all of it without trying to fix everything immediately. He smiled. Though I'll admit, adult emotions are more complicated than tantrum recovery. Speaking of Mira, you're supposed to go home tomorrow. The investigation isn't finished. I'm extending the contract. Because of the work or because of me? The question hung in the air between them, heavy with implications. Caleb could lie. Should lie, probably. Keep things professional, maintain boundaries, protect the careful structure of his life. Instead, he told the truth. Both. The investigation matters and needs to be completed properly. But yes, partly because of you. Because the thought of walking away while you're still vulnerable, still rebuilding, still processing everything, that doesn't sit right with me. Elena studied him in the firelight, her expression unreadable. Caleb, I'm a mess right now. I just escaped an abusive relationship, reclaimed a career that was stolen from me, and confronted a father who spent my life hiding me. I'm not in any position to... I know, I'm not asking for anything. He squeezed her hand gently. I'm just being honest about why I'm staying. You deserve honesty. What about Mira? You said being away from her is hard. It is, but I can work remotely for most of the investigation, come back here for crucial interviews and presentations, and... He hesitated. My sister pointed out that I'm allowed to want things for myself too, that being Mira's father doesn't mean being alone forever. Is that what you want? To not be alone? I want whatever comes next to be honest and uncomplicated by lies or manipulation or hidden agendas. I want... He stopped, choosing his words carefully. I want to see where this goes when you're ready. No pressure, no expectations, just possibility. Elena was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely audible. Victor used to tell me I should be grateful anyone could see past my face, that I was lucky he was willing to love someone who looked like me. For 3 years, I believed him. She met Caleb's eyes. But when you look at me, you don't see past anything. You just see me, all of me, and you treat that like it's enough. It's more than enough, Caleb said quietly. You're brilliant and strong and worthy of respect. The birthmark is just part of your face, Elena. It doesn't define you. No one's ever made me feel that way before? Then everyone else has been blind. She laughed through tears, then leaned forward and rested her forehead against his shoulder. Caleb wrapped his arm around her carefully, offering comfort without demanding anything in return. They sat like that for a long time, the fire crackling softly, the library empty and peaceful around them. Eventually, Elena pulled back, wiping her eyes. I should go. It's late and we have work tomorrow. We do. Jennifer Alcott gave us everything, emails, approvals, the whole timeline of Kane's manipulation. We need to trace the money and see how deep this goes. Then we start early. Elena stood, then paused. Caleb, when this is over, when the investigation wraps up and things settle, I'd like to meet Mira, if you meant what you said about possibility. Something warm bloomed in Caleb's chest. I meant it, and she'd love you. After Elena left, Caleb sat alone in the library, thinking about the life he'd carefully constructed and the possibility that it might expand to include something more. Someone more. It was terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure, and for the first time since Mira's mother walked away, Caleb let himself imagine a future where protecting the people he cared about might include more than just his daughter. The investigation consumed the next 72 hours. Caleb worked remotely from his home office during the days, video calling with Mira between analysis sessions, then flew back to the retreat facility for crucial meetings. Elena coordinated with forensic accountants, traced digital footprints through layers of shell companies, and slowly assembled a picture of corruption that extended far beyond Victor Kane's individual theft. They discovered that Kane had recruited 4 other employees over the past 2 years, each one carefully selected for their vulnerabilities. A junior analyst drowning in student debt who'd approved falsified data reports. A senior manager facing a divorce who'd signed off on questionable vendor contracts. An IT specialist with a sick parent who'd granted unauthorized system access. All of them manipulated, all of them threatened, all of them too afraid to come forward. On the 4th day, Elena called an emergency meeting with Patricia Voss and the forensics team. Caleb joined via video conference, Mira coloring quietly at his feet while he listened. The total damages exceed $7 million, Elena reported, her face drawn with exhaustion on the screen. Kane was running a sophisticated operation, stealing proprietary data, selling it to competitors, then laundering the proceeds through fake vendor payments. Marcus Chen handled the Asian market connections. The other employees were pawns threatened into compliance. Patricia's expression was grim. We're terminating everyone who participated, regardless of coercion. The legal exposure is too significant. That's not fair, Elena said immediately. These people were victims. Kane exploited their desperation. Firing them just punishes them twice for his crimes. I understand your compassion, but the board is demanding accountability. Then hold Kane accountable. He's the criminal. These employees were manipulated into helping him under threat of losing jobs they desperately needed. Elena's voice sharpened. Jennifer Alcott's son has leukemia. The junior analyst is a single mother with 3 kids. The IT specialist is the sole caretaker for his elderly father. They made terrible choices under impossible pressure, but they're not villains. Caleb spoke up from his home office. There's precedent for reduced consequences in coercion cases. Mandatory ethics training, probationary periods, supervised work assignments. You can protect the company without destroying these people's lives. Patricia was silent for a long moment. I'll take it to the board. No promises, but I'll advocate for leniency where coercion is clearly documented. After the meeting ended, Elena stayed on the video call while others disconnected. She looked drained, shadows under her eyes that hadn't been there a week ago. You should rest, Caleb said gently. You've been working 16-hour days. So have you, while also being a full-time parent. Elena smiled at something off-screen. Is that Mira? Can I see her? Caleb angled his laptop down. Mira, remember the brave person I told you about? This is Elena. Mira looked up from her coloring, studying Elena's face on the screen with the unfiltered curiosity of a 4-year-old. You have a pretty mark on your face. It looks like a map. Elena blinked, clearly surprised by the observation. A map? Yeah, like the ones Daddy shows me, with countries and oceans. Mira held up her drawing, a chaotic mess of purple and pink. I'm drawing you a picture. Daddy says you're building important things. I am, and I'd love to see your picture when you're finished. Elena's voice was soft, genuine emotion breaking through her exhaustion. Your daddy's been helping me a lot. He's very good at protecting people. That's because he's the best daddy ever, Mira said, matter-of-factly. He makes pancakes and reads stories and catches me when I fall off things. He caught me when I fell too. Mira's eyes went wide. Did you fall off something tall? Sort of. I fell because someone was mean to me, but your daddy made sure I didn't get hurt. Good. Mean people are the worst. Mira returned to her coloring with the conversation apparently concluded. Caleb adjusted the laptop back to face level. Sorry, she's very direct. Don't apologize. She's wonderful. Elena's expression was wistful. You're lucky to have her. I know, she's my whole world. That's obvious. The way you talk about her, the way you organize everything around her needs, that's real love. The kind that doesn't come with conditions or expectations. Elena paused. Victor used to say he loved me, but it was always contingent on me being grateful, being quiet, being whatever he needed. Watching you with Mira, I can see the difference between manipulation and actual love. Caleb wanted to reach through the screen to offer comfort beyond words. You deserve better than what he gave you. You deserve someone who sees your worth without needing you to diminish yourself. I'm starting to believe that, slowly. Elena glanced at something off screen. I should go. Another meeting with the board in an hour. They want updates on the security improvements. You've got this. Just remember, you're not asking for permission anymore. You're reporting on work you've already accomplished. After they disconnected, Mira climbed into Caleb's lap, abandoning her drawing. Daddy, is Elena your friend? Yes, she is. Like a special friend? The kind in movies where people hold hands and stuff? Caleb suppressed a smile. Maybe. It's complicated right now. Elena is dealing with a lot of difficult things. But you like her, I can tell. How can you tell? You smile different when you talk to her. Like how you smile at me, but also different. Mira's 4-year-old logic was occasionally unsettling in its accuracy. If she's your special friend, can she come to the park with us sometime? Would you like that? Uh-huh. She seems nice, and she called my mark pretty. Nobody ever says that. But it took Caleb a moment to realize Mira was talking about the small birthmark on her own shoulder, a faint coffee-colored patch about the size of a quarter that she'd inherited from his side of the family. Elena has a birthmark too, he said carefully. Some people were unkind to her about it when she was growing up. That's stupid. Marks are just marks. They don't make people bad or good. Mira's simple wisdom cut straight to truth. Can we have pancakes for dinner? The abrupt topic change was classic Mira. Caleb laughed and agreed, setting her down to start cooking. 2 days later, he returned to the retreat facility for the final presentation to the board. The investigation was complete, the financial damages documented, the security improvements implemented. This was the conclusion, wrapping everything into a comprehensive report and recommendations for preventing future breaches. Elena met him in the lobby, and something was different. She stood straighter, moved with more confidence, dressed in executive attire that spoke of authority rather than camouflage. Her hair was styled professionally, and she wore subtle makeup that highlighted her features, including the birthmark, rather than attempting to hide them. You look ready, Caleb said. I am. Today's not just about the investigation. It's about establishing my leadership, making it clear that I'm not my father's hidden daughter anymore. I'm the CTO who saved this company. She smiled, a real smile that reached her eyes. Patricia told me the board approved leniency for the coerced employees, probation instead of termination, ethics training, and supervised assignments. That's good news. It's more than good news. It means people got a second chance because we fought for them. That matters. Elena checked her watch. We have 20 minutes before the presentation. Want to get coffee? They walked to the resort's cafe, a comfortable silence between them. Over the past week, they'd fallen into an easy rhythm, professional collaboration layered with growing personal connection. Caleb had video called her every evening after putting Mira to bed, ostensibly to discuss case details, but often drifting into conversations about childhood, dreams, the futures they were each trying to build. I've been thinking about what comes after this, Elena said, as they waited for their orders. When the investigation closes and you go back to your regular contracts, I know you said you wanted to see where this goes when I was ready, but you're not sure when that will be, Caleb finished gently. I don't want to lead you on or make promises I can't keep. My life is chaos right now. I'm learning to be visible after years of hiding, rebuilding my relationship with my father, stepping into executive leadership. Adding a relationship to all of that feels overwhelming. I understand, and I'm not pressuring you for anything you're not ready to give. Caleb accepted his coffee from the barista. But I also want you to know I'm willing to wait. To let things develop naturally without forcing timelines or expectations. Because what we've built over the past week, the trust, the respect, the connection, that's worth being patient for. Elena's eyes glistened. How are you this understanding? Most men would have walked away by now or demanded clarity I can't provide. Most men didn't spend 3 years raising a toddler who changed her mind about everything every 5 minutes. I learned flexibility. He smiled. And honestly, Elena, I spent so long thinking I couldn't want anything beyond being Mira's father. That romance was incompatible with single parenthood. But meeting you, working beside you, watching you claim your power, it reminded me that wanting connection doesn't diminish my commitment to my daughter. It just expands my capacity for caring about people. Mira asked if I could go to the park with you sometime. She did. Apparently I smile different when I talk to you. Elena laughed, wiping at her eyes. Kids are terrifyingly perceptive. They really are. So what do you think? When this case closes, when things settle, would you want to try something like that? Casual, low pressure? Just seeing if the connection we've built in crisis translates to normal life. I'd like that. A lot. Elena reached across the small table and took his hand. Thank you for being patient with me, for seeing me as someone worth waiting for. Always. They finished their coffee and headed to the boardroom. The presentation went smoothly. Caleb outlined the investigation findings. Elena detailed the security improvements, and together they presented recommendations for preventing future breaches. The board approved everything unanimously and thanked them both for their exceptional work. As the meeting adjourned, Richard approached Elena privately. You've done remarkable work, he said quietly. Not just on the investigation, but in how you've handled everything. I'm proud of you. Thank you. Elena's voice was carefully neutral. I appreciate you saying that. I know we're not fixed, that it'll take time to rebuild trust, but I wanted you to know I'm committed to that work, to being the father you deserved all along. Richard hesitated. And I wanted to tell you something. I'm stepping down as CEO, announcing my retirement at the end of the quarter. Elena's eyes widened. Dad, you don't have to do that because of me. I'm not. I'm doing it because I'm 63 years old, and I've spent 40 years building this company at the expense of my family. At the expense of you. He smiled sadly. It's time for new leadership, fresh perspectives, and I'd like to actually know my daughter instead of just working alongside her. Who will replace you? The board is considering several candidates. Patricia Voss is the frontrunner. She's brilliant, ethical, and she actually listens to people. Richard paused. They asked if you were interested in being considered. For CEO, I've been CTO for less than a week. And you've already transformed our security infrastructure, exposed corporate espionage, and protected employees from unjust termination. That's leadership, Elena. Real leadership. He met her eyes directly. But I told them you should decide for yourself, without pressure from me or anyone else. What do you want? Elena was quiet for a long moment. I want to build things that matter. Technology that solves real problems. Systems that protect people. I don't know if CEO is the right path for that, or if it would pull me away from the work I actually love. Then take time to figure it out. The board isn't making decisions for another month. Richard smiled. Whatever you choose, I'll support you. And not from the shadows this time. Publicly, proudly, as your father. After he left, Elena stood alone in the boardroom processing everything. Caleb had stayed behind, giving her space with her father, but remaining close enough to provide support if needed. That was unexpected, she said finally. Which part? The retirement or the CEO consideration? All of it. 6 months ago, I was invisible. Now I'm being offered the highest position in the company. Elena laughed shakily. It's surreal. It's deserved. But he's right. You should take time to think about what you actually want, not what people expect or what seems like the logical next step. Caleb moved to stand beside her at the window overlooking the ocean. What does Elena Ward want when she's not fighting to be seen or reclaiming stolen work? What brings you joy? Elena considered the question seriously. Building elegant systems, solving impossible problems. The moment when code compiles perfectly and does exactly what you designed it to do. Teaching people how technology works, watching understanding dawn in their eyes. She paused. And lately, connecting with someone who sees me completely. All of me. Without flinching. That someone being me? Yes. She turned to face him. When this started, you were just a security consultant I asked for help. But somewhere between catching me when I fell and sitting beside me through board presentations, you became someone I trust, someone I care about, someone I want in my life even after the crisis ends. Caleb's heart rate picked up. I want that too. Very much. But I need to be clear about something. I'm not ready for a traditional relationship. Not yet. I need time to figure out who I am outside of being my father's hidden daughter or Victor's victim. I need space to build my own identity. I understand. And I'm not asking for traditional. I'm asking for honest. Whatever pace works for you, whatever level of connection feels right, I'm good with that. He smiled. I'm a single father with unpredictable work travel and a 4-year-old who requires constant attention. Traditional isn't really in my vocabulary anyway. Elena laughed. We're both disasters in our own ways, aren't we? Functional disasters. There's a difference. They stood at the window, shoulders touching, watching the sun set over the Pacific. The investigation was closed, the crisis resolved, but something new was beginning, tentative and undefined but real. I should get back, Caleb said eventually. I promised Mira I'd be home for bedtime. She has very strong opinions about storytime consistency. Before you go, Elena pulled out her phone. Give me your personal number, not just the work contact. I want to be able to call you when I'm not asking about security protocols or investigation updates. They exchanged numbers, the simple act feeling significant somehow. When you're ready, Caleb said, when things settle and you want to try that park visit with Mira, just call. No pressure, no timeline, just possibility. I will, soon, I think. Elena smiled. Tell Mira I loved her drawing. It's going on my office wall. Well, Caleb left the retreat facility that evening with a strange lightness in his chest, the feeling of completing difficult work well, while also beginning something entirely new. He drove home thinking about Elena's face when she'd presented to the board, the confidence she'd claimed, the power she'd finally allowed herself to own. When he arrived home, Mira launched herself into his arms with her usual enthusiasm. Daddy, you're back! Did you finish catching all the bad guys? I did. The investigation is complete. Good. Now you can stay home more. She pulled back to study his face seriously. And maybe Elena can visit? Maybe. She's very busy with important work right now. But she wants to see us. You said maybe means yes, if we're patient. Caleb laughed. I did say that. Yes, she wants to see us when she has time. We just have to be patient. I'm very good at patience. I waited forever for you to come home, and I only asked Auntie Sarah the time 1,700 times. Over the next week, Caleb settled back into his normal routine, taking contracts that allowed him to work from home, spending afternoons at the park with Mira, rebuilding the comfortable rhythm of their life together. But something had shifted. He caught himself checking his phone more often, hoping for messages from Elena. And when they came, texts about her day, questions about Mira, photos of her new office setup, he felt that unfamiliar warmth spreading through his chest. 10 days after the investigation closed, his phone rang late at night. Elena's name on the screen. Hey, he answered. Everything okay? I just finished my first major presentation as CTO. Technology roadmap for the next 5 years, delivered to the full board and our major investors. Elena's voice was breathless with excitement. And Caleb, I didn't hide. I stood at the front of the room, made eye contact, owned every word. My father introduced me as the architect of our success, and no one questioned it. They just listened. That's incredible. How do you feel? Terrified and exhilarated and powerful, Like I finally understand what it means to take up space without apologizing for it. She paused. I wanted to call you, to share this moment with someone who understands how significant it is. I'm honored you called me. Truly. Caleb glanced toward Mira's room, making sure she was still sleeping. You've come so far in such a short time, from invisible to indispensable. I had help. You showed me it was possible to stand up for myself, to demand recognition I'd earned. That changed everything. Elena's voice softened. I've been thinking about that park visit, if the offer's still open. Always. This weekend? Saturday afternoon? I don't want to intrude on your time with Mira, but you wouldn't be intruding. She asks about you regularly. I think she's decided you're a permanent fixture in our lives. Smart kid, Elena laughed. Okay, Saturday. Text me the details and I'll be there. After they hung up, Caleb sat in the dark living room, processing the conversation. A week ago, Elena had needed space to figure out her identity. Now she was ready to take a tentative step toward connection. The progress spoke to her resilience, her capacity for growth even through trauma. Saturday arrived with perfect weather, clear skies, gentle breeze, ideal park conditions. Caleb dressed Mira in her favorite purple shirt and explained carefully that their friend Elena was joining them. Is she your girlfriend now? Mira asked with typical directness. She's my friend who happens to be a girl. We're getting to know each other better. That's what Emma's mom said about her new boyfriend before they got married. Just saying. Mira skipped ahead toward the car. Can we get ice cream after the park? We'll see. Elena was already at the park when they arrived, sitting on a bench near the playground. She wore jeans and a casual sweater, her hair loose around her shoulders, looking more relaxed than Caleb had ever seen her. When she spotted them, her face lit up with genuine warmth. Mira ran ahead, stopping just short of Elena with sudden shyness. Hi, Elena said gently. You must be Mira. I've heard so many wonderful things about you. Daddy says you build important computer things. I do. And he says you build amazing blanket forts with structural integrity. Mira's shyness evaporated. Do you want to see my favorite swing? It goes really high and makes your stomach feel funny. I'd love to. For the next 2 hours, Caleb watched Elena interact with his daughter with natural ease. She pushed Mira on the swings, helped her navigate the climbing structure, and listened with genuine interest to elaborate explanations of playground social dynamics. There was no awkwardness, no trying too hard, just authentic connection between two people who seemed to genuinely enjoy each other's company. At one point, Mira fell while running and scraped her knee. Elena was there instantly, kneeling beside her with the same calm competence Caleb recognized from crisis situations. Let me see, Elena said gently. Okay, this is a brave injury. Only very brave people get scrapes this impressive. Mira sniffled, considering this. Really? Absolutely. And brave people get special treatment. Do you know what helps brave injuries heal faster? Ice cream? Elena laughed. I was going to say cleaning it properly, but ice cream after that sounds medically sound to me. Caleb handed over the first aid kit he always carried, watching Elena carefully clean and bandage Mira's knee with practiced efficiency. When she finished, Mira threw her arms around Elena's neck in a spontaneous hug. You're nice. I'm glad you're Daddy's special friend. Elena's eyes met Caleb's over Mira's head, something soft and vulnerable in her expression. I'm glad too. They got ice cream from the park vendor, sitting on a bench while Mira chased pigeons nearby. Elena's hand found Caleb's on the bench between them, their fingers intertwining naturally. This is good, she said quietly. Being here with you both, just existing without crisis or investigation or corporate drama. I didn't know it could be this simple. It's not always this simple. Mira has spectacular meltdowns over things like the wrong color sippy cup. My work can get intense. Life happens. Caleb squeezed her hand gently. But the foundation, the trust, the respect, the caring, that makes the complicated parts manageable. I want this. More of this. Building something real with you, getting to know Mira, creating space in my life for connection instead of just achievement. Elena watched Mira chase birds with a smile. But I'm still figuring out how to balance everything. The new position is demanding, my relationship with my father is still healing, and I'm learning to be visible after years of hiding. It's a lot. I know, and I'm not asking you to have everything figured out, just that we're honest with each other about what we need, what we can handle, and what we're hoping for. Caleb turned to look at her directly. Elena, I care about you. A lot. But I also know you're rebuilding your entire life. So we go at whatever pace works for you. No pressure, no expectations beyond honesty and respect. What if I mess this up? What if I get overwhelmed and need space and hurt you in the process? Then you tell me you need space and I respect that. We're both adults who've been through difficult things. We can handle communication and boundaries. He smiled. Plus, I have a 4-year-old teaching me daily about patience and flexibility. I'm well trained. Elena laughed, wiping at her eyes. How did I get this lucky? Finding someone who sees me completely and still chooses to be patient with my mess? Same way I got lucky finding someone who treats my daughter like she matters and doesn't run screaming from single-father complications. Caleb pulled her closer, his arm around her shoulders. We both deserve good things, Elena. We just have to be brave enough to believe it. They sat like that while Mira played, the afternoon sun warm on their faces, the future uncertain but full of possibility. When it was time to leave, Mira insisted on hugging Elena goodbye. Will you come to the park again? She asked. I'd love to, if your dad and you want me to. We definitely want you to. Right, Daddy? Right, Caleb confirmed, smiling at Elena over his daughter's head. As they walked to their cars, Elena pulled Caleb aside while Mira climbed into her seat. Thank you for today, for sharing this part of your life with me, for letting me see what healthy love looks like. She stood on her toes and kissed his cheek softly. I'll call you soon. Really soon. I'll be waiting. Driving home, Mira was unusually quiet in the back seat. Finally, she spoke up. Daddy, I really like Elena. She's nice and she's not weird about my mark or anything. And she makes you smile the happy way. I really like her too, sweetheart. Good, because I think we should keep her. Caleb laughed. It's not quite that simple, but yes. I hope she stays in our lives for a long time. Me too. Can we have pancakes for dinner? The abrupt topic change was classic Mira, and Caleb agreed readily, his heart full with the unexpected gift of this day. That night, after Mira was asleep, his phone buzzed with a text from Elena. Thank you for today, for Mira, for showing me what it looks like when someone builds their life around loving people well. I want to learn how to do that. With you, if you'll teach me. He texted back, already teaching. You're a quick study. Sweet dreams, Elena. Her response came quickly. Sweet dreams, Caleb. Tell Mira I saved her drawing. It's going up in my office tomorrow, right beside my degrees and awards. Where it belongs. Caleb smiled in the darkness of his bedroom, thinking about the woman who'd walked into his investigation as a victim and emerged as a force of nature. Who'd reclaimed stolen work, confronted family wounds, and somehow found space in her rebuilding life to care about him and his daughter. The future was still uncertain. Elena's healing wasn't complete, their relationship undefined, the path forward unclear. But for the first time in years, Caleb felt something beyond contentment with his carefully constructed single-father life. He felt hope. 3 weeks later, everything unraveled in a way Caleb hadn't anticipated. He was home with Mira, building an elaborate pillow fort in the living room, when his phone rang with Patricia Voss's name on the screen. The tension in her voice was immediate. We have a problem. Victor Kane posted bail this morning. Caleb's blood went cold. That's not possible. He was denied bail twice. Federal espionage charges. His family hired a high-powered legal team. They argued flight risk was minimal because of his connections to the community, and some judge bought it. Patricia's frustration was evident. He's out on a $2 million bond with an ankle monitor. FBI says he's not legally allowed to contact anyone from the company, but Caleb, he's already violated that order. How? He sent Elena a letter. It arrived at her office an hour ago. The content, Patricia paused. It's threatening. Vague enough to maybe not violate his bail conditions legally, but the intent is clear. He's not done punishing her. Caleb's protective instincts flared instantly. Where's Elena now? Still at the office. Security is with her, but she's shaken. She asked if you were available to consult on upgraded personal security measures. But honestly, I think she just wants someone she trusts nearby. I'm on my way. Keep her in the building until I get there. After arranging emergency childcare with his sister, Caleb made the 2-hour drive to the corporate headquarters in record time. He found Elena in her corner office on the executive floor, staring out the window at the city skyline. The letter sat on her desk, still in its opened envelope. She turned when he entered, and the fear in her eyes made his chest tighten. "He's out," she said unnecessarily. "After everything he did, all the evidence, the arrests, the charges, he's just out, walking around free while I'm terrified to leave my office." Caleb crossed to her immediately, his hands on her shoulders. "Tell me what the letter said." Elena handed it to him with trembling fingers. The handwriting was precise, controlled, exactly like Victor, polished menace wrapped in civilized language. "Elena, I've had time to reflect during my incarceration. I understand now that you felt cornered, that you acted out of fear rather than malice. I forgive you for the misunderstanding that led to my arrest. When this is resolved and my name is cleared, I hope we can have an honest conversation about what really happened, about the truth you've been hiding. Some secrets are harder to bury than others, and birthmarks aren't the only scars people carry. I'll be in touch soon. We have unfinished business. V." Caleb read it twice, his anger building with each word. The threat was veiled but unmistakable. Victor was implying he had more ammunition, more ways to hurt Elena, more secrets to expose. "What is he talking about?" Caleb asked carefully. "What truth is he claiming you're hiding?" Elena sank into her desk chair, her face pale. "I don't know. That's what scares me. Victor is meticulous. If he says he has something, he probably does. Some piece of my history I've forgotten about, some vulnerability he can exploit." Her voice broke. "I thought this was over. I thought I was finally safe." "You are safe. He's not getting near you." Caleb pulled out his phone, calling his FBI contact immediately. "This letter violates his bail conditions. He's making implicit threats against a witness in an ongoing federal case. That's enough to revoke bail." But the FBI agent's response was frustrating. Without explicit threats or direct contact attempts, the letter existed in a legal gray area. They'd document it, add it to the case file, but immediate revocation wasn't guaranteed. Caleb hung up and looked at Elena's defeated expression. "We're not waiting for the legal system to protect you. I'm implementing immediate security measures, armed guards, secure transport, residential monitoring, and I'm staying close until Kane is back in custody." "I can't ask you to do that. You have Mira, your work." "You're not asking. I'm offering. And Mira is safe with my sister for a few days, while I make sure you are too." He knelt beside her chair. "Elena, look at me. Victor is trying to make you feel powerless again, small and scared and vulnerable. But you're not that person anymore. You stood up to him once. We'll do it again." "What if he has something real? What if there's some part of my past that destroys everything I've built? Then we'll face it together. But I'm guessing this is psychological warfare. He's trying to destabilize you, make you second-guess yourself, convince you that you're still the victim he controlled." Caleb's voice was firm. "Don't give him that power." Elena took a shaky breath. Okay, you're right. I'm letting him get in my head." She straightened her shoulders. "What do we do?" Over the next 48 hours, Caleb transformed Elena's security. He hired a personal protection detail, installed advanced monitoring systems in her apartment, coordinated with local police for increased patrols, and personally vetted everyone who had access to her office or home. He also moved into her guest room, refusing to leave her unprotected. On the third night, Elena found him reviewing security footage in her living room at 2 in the morning. "You need to sleep," she said quietly. "I will, after I finish checking today's access logs." He didn't look up from his laptop. "Caleb?" She sat beside him on the couch. "You can't sustain this pace. You've barely slept since Victor was released. You haven't seen Mira in 3 days. This isn't healthy. Neither is letting someone threaten you unchecked. The security team you hired is excellent. The apartment is fortress-level secure. You've done everything possible to protect me." Elena closed his laptop gently. "But you're running yourself into the ground trying to control a situation that's fundamentally about Victor's choices, not your precautions." Caleb knew she was right, but admitting it meant accepting that there were limits to his ability to keep her safe. That thought was unbearable. "I can't lose you," he said quietly. "Not to him. Not when we're just beginning to build something real. You won't lose me, but you might lose yourself if you keep operating on no sleep and constant hypervigilance." Elena took his hand. I need you present, not just protective. I need the Caleb who makes terrible jokes during tense moments and talks about Mira's latest blanket fort innovations, not this haunted version running on adrenaline and fear. He looked at her properly for the first time in days, seeing the worry in her eyes. Worry for him, not just herself. I'm sorry. I'm supposed to be helping you feel safe, not adding to your stress. You are helping, but sustainable help means taking care of yourself too. She leaned her head on his shoulder. Call Mira. Talk to your daughter. Remember that you have a whole life beyond protecting me from Victor's mind games. Caleb called Mira the next morning, video chatting while she ate breakfast at his sister's house. Daddy, when are you coming home? I made you 7 new pictures and Auntie Sarah says they're running out of refrigerator space. Soon, sweetheart. I'm helping Elena with something important. Is she okay? Did the bad guy try to hurt her again? Caleb exchanged a look with Elena, who was sitting beside him on the couch. They'd deliberately not told Mira the details of Victor's release. She's okay. We're making sure she stays safe. Can I talk to her? Caleb handed the phone to Elena, who took it with a surprised expression. Hi, Mira, Elena said warmly. Hi. Daddy says you need help staying safe. I'm very good at being safe. Do you want my tips? I'd love your tips. Okay. First, always hold someone's hand in parking lots. Second, don't talk to strangers who seem creepy. Third, if you're scared, find a grown-up you trust. And fourth, remember that being brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means doing the thing even when you're scared. Mira's 4-year-old wisdom was delivered with complete seriousness. Did that help? Elena's eyes were bright with tears. That helped so much. Thank you, Mira. You're welcome. Are you and Daddy going to get married? The question hung in the air. Caleb reached for the phone, but Elena shook her head slightly, keeping it. I don't know, Elena answered honestly. We're still getting to know each other, but I really like your daddy, and I really like you. Good, because we like you too. Daddy smiles more when you're around, and I want him to smile lots. Mira paused. Also, when you come to the park next time, can you push me on the big swings? You're really good at pushing. Deal. After the call ended, Elena handed the phone back to Caleb with a soft smile. She's amazing. She's something, all right? Caleb pocketed his phone. I'm sorry she asked about marriage. That was sweet. It was sweet. And not entirely unwelcome to think about, even if it's way too early for actual plans. Elena met his eyes. Caleb, I know we're in the middle of crisis mode right now, but when this is over, when Victor is back in custody and the threat is neutralized, I want to explore what we could be, really explore it, not just crisis bonding or gratitude for protection. I want that too, more than I've wanted anything in a long time that wasn't directly related to Mira's well-being. He pulled her closer. But first, we finish this. Make sure you're truly safe. The breakthrough came unexpectedly on the 5th day. Patricia Voss called with urgent news. Victor's ankle monitor showed him at a location he's forbidden to visit, the corporate headquarters. He spent 40 minutes inside the building last night, accessing restricted areas. Security footage shows him at Elena's office, trying multiple door codes. How did he get past building security? Caleb demanded. He had a guest badge issued under a false name. We're investigating who provided it, but that's secondary. The important part is he violated bail conditions explicitly. The FBI is picking him up within the hour. He's going back into custody, and this time, no bail. Relief flooded through Caleb, followed immediately by concern. He got into the building and tried to access Elena's office. Why? What was he looking for? We don't know yet, but IT is running a complete audit of what areas he accessed and what he might have compromised. Within 3 hours, they had answers. Victor had broken into the HR records room, attempting to access Elena's complete employment file, but he'd triggered a silent alarm that Caleb's security upgrades had installed, and security had responded before he could copy anything. He was looking for ammunition, Elena said when they received the report. Something from my employment history he could use to discredit me. Performance reviews, disciplinary actions, anything that would support his narrative that I'm unstable. But there's nothing there, Patricia confirmed. Your file is spotless. Exemplary performance consistently, no complaints, no issues. Even the fabricated reviews he created weren't in the official records because HR never processed them. So he broke into a federal restriction zone, violated bail conditions, and committed corporate trespassing, all to find evidence that doesn't exist. Caleb shook his head. His desperation is showing. The FBI arrested Victor that afternoon at his family's estate. This time, the judge revoked bail permanently. He'd remain in federal custody until trial, with additional charges added for the violations. When Elena received the news, she collapsed onto her office couch, the tension draining from her body all at once. "It's really over," she whispered. "He can't hurt me anymore." "He can't," Caleb confirmed, sitting beside her. "The trial will happen eventually, and you'll have to testify. But he'll be in custody throughout. He's lost his power over you." Elena turned to him, her expression raw with emotion. "I couldn't have survived this without you. The investigation, the threats, the constant fear. You were there for all of it. Protected me when I couldn't protect myself. Believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. You protected yourself, Elena. You stood up to him, exposed his crimes, reclaimed your work. I just made sure you had backup while you did it. It was more than backup. It was partnership, trust, the kind of support I didn't know existed." She took his hand. "When Victor sent that letter, my first instinct was to hide again, to make myself small and invisible so he couldn't target me. But you reminded me I don't have to live that way anymore, that being visible is worth the risk." "It is worth it. You're worth it." Caleb pulled her closer. "And now you get to actually live the life you've been building instead of just defending it." Over the next month, Elena did exactly that. She presented the 5-year technology roadmap to investors, launched 3 new innovation initiatives, and accepted the board's offer of a formal seat alongside her CTO position. Richard Ward officially announced his retirement, and Patricia Voss was named CEO in a unanimous board vote. The company transformed under new leadership, more transparent, more ethical, more aligned with the values Elena had been quietly implementing for years. Throughout all of it, Caleb remained a steady presence, not as a bodyguard anymore, but as a partner. He attended her presentations when his schedule allowed, celebrated her victories, and provided perspective when executive politics became overwhelming. And Elena integrated herself into his life with equal care, joining weekend park visits with Mira, learning to make Caleb's famous pancakes, and slowly becoming a natural part of their small family unit. 6 weeks after Victor's final arrest, Caleb invited Elena to a special dinner at his house. Mira had been involved in planning for days, insisting on specific decorations and menu items. "It's a celebration dinner," she'd informed Elena mysteriously. "For important grown-up stuff. You have to dress nice." Elena arrived in an elegant navy dress, carrying flowers and clearly curious about the occasion. Mira answered the door in her fanciest purple outfit, practically vibrating with excitement. "You look so pretty. Come in, come in. Daddy made the fancy chicken and I helped with dessert." The house was decorated with Mira's artwork. Colorful drawings hung on every wall, including several featuring stick figures labeled Daddy, Mira, and Elena. The dining table was set with Caleb's best dishes, candles flickering in the center. Caleb emerged from the kitchen, looking slightly nervous in dress slacks and a button-down shirt. "Welcome. Mira's been very insistent about tonight being perfect." "It's already perfect," Elena said warmly, handing him the flowers. "What are we celebrating?" "Multiple things. Sit. I'll explain over dinner." The meal was delicious. Caleb had clearly put significant effort into the cooking. Mira chattered throughout, explaining in detail how she'd helped frost the chocolate cake currently waiting in the kitchen. When they finished eating, Caleb cleared his throat. "So, the celebration. First, I received word today that the company is issuing formal commendations for everyone involved in exposing the corporate espionage. You're being recognized publicly for your security innovations and ethical leadership." "That's wonderful," Elena said, though she looked confused. "But that doesn't require a fancy dinner." "No, but it's part of the bigger picture. Everything we've been through, the investigation, the threats, the rebuilding, it's brought us to this point where you're claiming your rightful place in leadership, where truth won over manipulation, where you're finally visible and valued." Caleb reached across the table and took her hand. "And where we've built something real together, something that started in crisis but became so much more." Elena's breath caught. "Caleb, I'm not proposing," he said quickly, seeing her expression. We've been together barely 2 months officially. I know you're still healing, still building your new life, but I wanted to do something to mark this moment, to acknowledge what we mean to each other and what we're creating together. He pulled a small box from his pocket. Elena's eyes widened. It's not an engagement ring, he clarified, opening the box to reveal a delicate silver necklace with a compass pendant. It's a promise that wherever you go, whatever challenges you face, you're not navigating alone anymore. You have partnership, support, people who see your worth and stand beside you. Elena's hands trembled as she took the necklace. It's beautiful. There's 2 of them, Mira announced, unable to contain herself any longer. Show her, Daddy. Caleb pulled out a second identical box, handing it to his daughter. Inside was a smaller version of the same compass necklace. We're both promising, Mira explained seriously. Me and Daddy, that we're a team now. All 3 of us. Elena looked between them, tears streaming down her face. You really want me? Both of you? Even with all my complications and healing and the mess I'm still working through? Especially with all of that, Caleb said firmly. Elena, you've shown me what it looks like when someone chooses to be brave instead of invisible. When they claim their power and refuse to be diminished. That's the person I want in my life, in our lives. And you're nice and you push me really high on swings and you're not weird about marks, Mira added. Those are very important qualifications. Elena laughed through her tears. Can I put it on now? Yes, Mira bounced excitedly. And then we have cake. Caleb helped Elena fasten the necklace, his fingers gentle at the back of her neck. The compass pendant settled just below her collarbone, catching the candlelight. Thank you, Elena whispered, for seeing me, for standing beside me, for giving me space to heal while also showing me what healthy love looks like. Thank you for being brave enough to let us in, for trusting us with the real you, birthmark and brilliance, and everything in between. Mira tugged at Elena's sleeve. Can we have cake now? I've been very patient. They moved to the living room for dessert, Mira settling between them on the couch with her slice of chocolate cake. She chattered about her day, about the fort she'd built that afternoon, about her plans for teaching Elena how to build proper structural supports. Watching his daughter lean comfortably against Elena while explaining architectural theory, Caleb felt something settle in his chest, a rightness he hadn't experienced since Mira was born. His family had been complete with just the 2 of them, but this expansion felt natural, like Elena had always been meant to fit into this space. After Mira went to bed, Caleb and Elena sat together on the porch, watching the stars emerge in the darkening sky. I never thought I could have this, Elena said quietly. A relationship built on actual trust and respect. People who see me completely and choose to stay. A family that wants me not despite my complications, but including them. I never thought I could want this, Caleb admitted. After Mira's mom left, I convinced myself that being a good father meant not pursuing romance, that it was selfish to want partnership when I already had my daughter. But meeting you taught me that loving you doesn't diminish my love for Mira. It expands my capacity to love. Makes me a better father, because I'm modeling what healthy relationships look like. Do you think Mira's ready for this? For me being a permanent part of your lives? I think Mira claimed you as family weeks ago. You've been part of her bedtime prayers since the park visit. Caleb smiled at Elena's surprised expression. She prays that you stay safe, that your work goes well, and that you come visit soon. In that order. I love her, Elena said simply. I know that might seem fast, but I genuinely love your daughter. Her honesty, her creativity, her absolute confidence that birthmarks are just marks, and people are just people. She loves you too. She told me last week that when she grows up, she wants to be brave like Elena and build important things. Elena wiped at her eyes. That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said about me. They sat in comfortable silence, Elena's head on Caleb's shoulder, the compass necklace catching moonlight. What happens now? Elena asked eventually. With us, I mean. We have this promise, this commitment to partnership, but practically, what does our future look like? Honestly, I don't know exactly. We figure it out together as we go. Caleb laced his fingers through hers. Maybe eventually you move closer so Mira can see you more often. Maybe we officially combine households when it feels right. Maybe we get married someday, or maybe we build something that doesn't fit traditional definitions. I'm open to whatever works for all 3 of us. I like that. Building something custom instead of following someone else's blueprint. Elena lifted her head to look at him. I want you to know I'm all in. Whatever we're building, I'm committed to making it work, to showing up, communicating honestly, and prioritizing what we're creating together. I know. I can see it in how you are with Mira, how you've integrated yourself into our routines, how you think about our needs alongside your own. Caleb kissed her forehead gently. We're going to be okay, Elena. Better than okay. We're going to be extraordinary. 3 months later, on a Saturday afternoon at their favorite park, Caleb and Elena watched Mira play on the climbing structure. The little girl had insisted Elena wear her compass necklace, checking multiple times to make sure it was visible. She's very proud that you wear it, Caleb observed. I wear it every day. It reminds me that I'm not alone anymore, that I have people who choose me, who stand beside me, who see my worth. Elena leaned into Caleb's side. I got the final verdict on Victor's trial yesterday. 15 years federal prison, no possibility of parole for at least 10. Full restitution to the company and to the employees he manipulated. How do you feel about that? Relieved, vindicated. A little sad that it came to this, but mostly just ready to close that chapter completely. She touched the compass pennant unconsciously. He tried to make me invisible, to steal my work and destroy my credibility, but instead, he forced me into the light, made me fight for recognition I'd been too afraid to claim on my own. In a twisted way, his cruelty led to my freedom. That's a generous perspective. Not generous, just honest. I'm not grateful for what he did. The abuse was real and damaging, but I'm grateful for what I discovered about myself through fighting back. That I'm strong enough to stand up for myself, brave enough to be visible, worthy of respect and love and partnership. Mira ran over, breathless and excited. Elena, come see what I built. It's a fort at the top of the slide, and it has a lookout tower. Elena let Mira pull her toward the climbing structure, her laughter bright and uninhibited. Caleb watched them together, his daughter explaining architectural details with wild hand gestures, Elena listening with genuine interest and asking thoughtful questions. This was his life now. Not just protecting Mira, not just surviving as a single father, but building a family with someone who chose them as deliberately as they chose her. Someone who'd fought through darkness to claim her own light, and now shared that light with them. His phone buzzed with a text from Richard Ward. Elena's innovation initiative just won a major industry award. Thought you should know. She's changing everything here. Thank you for helping her find her voice. Caleb smiled and pocketed his phone. Elena didn't need him to find her voice. She'd always had it. He just helped her remember it was okay to use it. Daddy, Mira called from the top of the slide. Come up here. The fort needs your tall person approval. He joined them in the precarious structure Mira had created from her imagination and determination, squeezing beside Elena in the tight space. What do you think? Mira asked seriously. Is it structurally sound? Very sound, Caleb confirmed, though I'm not sure it's rated for adult weight capacity. Elena says all good structures account for unexpected loads. We reinforce the corners. Did you now? Caleb looked at Elena, who shrugged innocently. Engineering principles apply to playground forts too. They stayed there for a while, crammed into Mira's creation, talking about nothing important. And Caleb realized this was what happiness looked like. Not dramatic rescues or crisis management, but quiet moments of connection with people who knew you completely and chose you anyway. When they finally climbed down, Mira took both their hands, swinging between them as they walked toward the parking lot. Can Elena come to dinner again? She asked. I want to show her my new picture book about brave people. I'd love to, Elena said immediately. And can she sleep over? In the guest room like before when the bad guy was being scary? Caleb and Elena exchanged a look over Mira's head. The guest room is always available, Caleb said carefully, whenever Elena wants to stay. Actually, Elena said, her voice slightly nervous, I've been thinking about that. My lease is up next month, and I've been looking at places closer to you both. So I could be around more often without the long drive. Mira stopped walking, looking up at Elena with wide eyes. You mean you'd live near us? Like, really near? If that's okay with you and your dad. It's very okay. Daddy, is it okay with you? Caleb met Elena's eyes, seeing hope and vulnerability mixed in her expression. This was a significant step, choosing to build her life around proximity to them to make their relationship a geographic priority. "It's more than okay," he said quietly. "It's what I've been hoping for." Elena's smile was radiant. "Then I'll start looking at places in your neighborhood, maybe something with space for a home office since I'm doing more remote work now." They continued walking, Mira chattering excitedly about all the things they could do if Elena lived closer. Caleb listened with half his attention, the rest focused on the woman beside him, brilliant, brave, and choosing to build a life that included them at the center. That evening, after dinner and stories and tucking Mira into bed, Caleb and Elena sat on his back porch watching fireflies emerge in the darkening yard. "Thank you," Elena said softly. "For what?" "For catching me when I fell. Not just that first time on the terrace, but every time after. When I doubted myself, when I was scared, when I forgot my own worth, you were there, steady and sure, reminding me who I really am. You did the same for me, reminded me I'm allowed to want things beyond being Mira's father. That opening my heart to partnership doesn't make me less devoted to my daughter. It makes me more whole." Caleb pulled her close. "We caught each other, Elena. That's what partnership means." She tilted her face up to kiss him, soft and sweet and full of promise. When they broke apart, she rested her forehead against his. "I used to think being invisible was safety," she whispered, "that if no one could see me, no one could hurt me. But you taught me that being truly seen, birthmark and brilliance and everything in between, that's where real safety lives. In being known completely and loved anyway. You taught me the same thing. That letting someone see my struggles as a single father, my fears about not being enough, my complicated life, that vulnerability creates connection instead of driving people away." They sat together as darkness fell completely, fireflies dancing in the yard, the summer night warm and perfect around them. Inside, Mira slept soundly, her drawings covering the refrigerator, her compass necklace on her nightstand, and in that moment, everything felt exactly as it should be. Elena Ward had started this journey as a hidden daughter, an invisible genius, a woman convinced her appearance made her unworthy of recognition. She'd emerged as a powerful executive, a force for change, and a woman brave enough to claim both her professional success and personal happiness. Caleb Reed had started as a man who'd built his entire identity around protecting his daughter, convinced that single fatherhood meant solitude. He discovered that loving Elena expanded his capacity for love, rather than diminishing it. That partnership enhanced his parenting rather than threatening it. And Mira, wise beyond her years, had seen what the adults needed time to realize. That family wasn't about biology or traditional structures, but about people who chose each other deliberately and loved each other completely. The investigation that brought them together was closed. Victor Kane was imprisoned. The company was thriving under ethical leadership. And three people who'd all known different versions of loneliness had found in each other exactly what they needed. Not rescue, not completion, but partnership. The kind built on mutual respect, shared values, and the courage to be fully seen. As fireflies lit the darkness and Elena's hand found his, Caleb thought about the stories he told Mira before bed. The ones where good guys won and bravery mattered, and people who stood up for what was right found happiness. This time he wouldn't have to make anything up. This time, the story was real.